with the next episode of the Appalachian Podcast. I'm your host, Billy Riddle. With me is not my red coat co-host. In fact, we don't know where he's at today. I believe his wife is down with the sickness.
Actually, I think we beat his ass all the way back to Great Britain.
Could have been the case. Could have been the case.
Yeah.
So, as you can tell by this deep interest in voice, my co-host for today is going to be our buddy, Chocolate Drop, Chris Montgomery. Chris, why do they call you Chocolate Drop?
Well, that was kind of an inside joke between me and the lady that told you that.
I still don't know if it means anything to you. I still don't know the inside part of it. She just said to.
She's my superwoman.
Okay, she's a good girl.
And somehow or another, Chocolate Drop got brought up, and that become my nickname.
Well, it's a very fitting nickname. We might have just referred to you as on this show from here on out. And we didn't have you on the last show we had with James Baheeler, which if you haven't listened to that one, that was a really good show. He was an Afghanistan war veteran, and he kind of talked about, some of his struggles and some of the things that he does now to try and get over. He does a lot of fly fishing and things of that nature. So if you haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to it. It was a real good show. From the show before that, kind of talked about the $5 million gamble, the Rocky Mount town purchase. We're not going to reflect on that one again here today. We want to touch back on that, but we want to touch back on that on a show that's not like the one we're doing today, and one we have Chris and Simon both, since we were kind of a part of that one. But while you have the opportunity, if you do want to apologize to white people for using racially tinged language, now is your opportunity to pacify some of these people in town who criticized us for such a distinction and for using threatening and intimidating language or whatever the hell he was saying. But,
it was funny because I remember specifically saying no violence at all. All we want to do is, raise the temperature in the room with bodies.
Let them know we're here. Let them know we're paying attention.
But our guest today, we're not even going to talk about that. That's, like you said, we'll do that in another podcast. I'm enjoying the guest that's here with us today, and I'm not going to give anybody the satisfaction of talking about that.
I felt like, for me, who speaks for Milky White crackers everywhere, I just didn't know if you wanted to apologize so I could pass it to them on my behalf. But we'll get to that apology at a later date. Today's show, first and foremost, we want to thank the Rocky Mount Burger Company for hosting us here today. We have such a good relationship with Brian. He does a lot of good things for us, and today he's offered up here, the private room upstairs, which I thought would be a good spot for what we're doing here today, and a good spot for future events. We're trying to kind of get a feel for it, how it sounds in here. Maybe the next time we'll do like a private show up here where 15 or 20 people can come sit around and listen. Maybe we can have a speaker or something, and if it sounds good, maybe we'll go downstairs, and in lieu of, garbage musicians like Josh Grice coming in here and wasting your time playing the same old songs over and over and him getting paid, maybe we can get the same fee that, that these bands get, and we can come down here and actually interest people. People, instead of just talking through your set, they'll sit there and listen to, maybe try a live show or something.
That's right. Hey, I think he got kicked out of Williamson Road over there. I seen him down there at the roundabout at Hardy's, at the new roundabout down there at Hardy, and he had a jug out there that said needed to feed his kids and would take what people could give.
Well, I mean, he's
on a fire. He was sitting on a 5-gallon bucket and had this funny looking concoction.
He stopped playing music. Now he's just down to straight panhandling. Look, Josh, I mean, we'll hook you up if you need it. Just come on the show and give us a few minutes, and we'll get you a couple meals, and we'll point you in the right direction.
That's right.
But yeah, anyway, big thanks to Brian and the Burger Company. Phenomenal food, phenomenal service. We got our friend Trinity over here. She's been serving us all afternoon, and I know
I wasn't going to mention her by name. She's got warrants out.
Well, that's why we didn't give her a last name or anything like that. But I guess at this point in time, anybody is looking for a Trinity is going to know to come. Good job, Chris. Way to go. But yeah, she's been great up here today. We've had families coming in and out of here, been ordering drinks, been ordering food, because, today's episode, we're bringing back the Iraq guys. I know a lot of people have listened to a lot of those shows, and we've had a lot of fun with some of those shows. And this one's a really, really special one. for a couple of reasons. One, it just wasn't one that was yanked out of my ass at the last minute saying I need to fill an episode. let's call these jagoffs and come in here and tell stories. But today actually means something because what's today, April 2nd? So April 4th, which I guess will be the day after the show was, or the day before this show was released on April 5th, was the day we all flew to Iraq. So it's been 20 years, and I thought it'd be good to bring back, put the band back together one more time and come in here and tell a few stories. So we've got some familiar faces on here, and we've got one new face. So I'm going to go around the room, starting to my left, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Starting with I guess the most senior member of the Appalachian Podcast, as far as the Iraq Boys is concerned, would be Emmette Bird, who has been along for every single show we've done. So welcome back.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I will always come down here and run my mouth to be with my buddies. No doubt about it. The wife doesn't even give me grief about it anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
So did she start off doing it?
No, not really. We've been married 35 years, so
Yeah.
She thinks I'm properly neutered at this point and don't need to be on a leash, so she can kind of let me go where I want to now. But love her to death. 35 years she's put up with me.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
It is. She deserves an award of some sort.
So yeah, Bird, he's been on every episode. So I think this is our 5th or 6th Iraq-themed episode, one of the two, I can't remember. But Bird was actually the second show we ever did. We called it Blue Ridge to Baghdad, and it was really good. It really helped give us the confidence to continue this show forward, making waves and doing the stuff we did. So, for a lot of reasons, of course, I owe Bird a debt of gratitude, and we'll get into some of these things here today. To his left here, we'll welcome for the first time on the show, James Adams. James, love the hell out of you. I'm glad you could make it down here today.
Yeah, it's my first time down here. My name is James Adams. I actually haven't seen Billy since 2004.
Yeah.
Physically. Him and a couple other people in here. But when he asked me did I want to come, I couldn't wait but to come and see what it's like and get away from the house too.
Yeah, I've kept up with him, on the internet, and it sucks, that we live so close. We just hadn't been able, but, every people that aren't in our situation, it's hard to imagine. Everybody's got so many different things going on. They've got, jobs and families and other priorities and stuff. And it doesn't mean we don't think about everybody all the time. I think about them. I still have dreams about everybody all the time. But, it's good to have a moment like this being, such a good anniversary date. So I'm glad, James, that he took the invite. Still waiting on Marvin Johnson out there. So, Marvin, if you listen to this episode, you loudmouth SOB. Next time we have something like this, you need to come on down here because if anybody can sit in front of a mic and tell stories, it's got to be Marvin Johnson. So I hope he's doing good. I hope he's listening. We'll be joined by some other guys here later tonight as well. But returning again, I guess, probably for the 4th or so time, we got everybody's favorite Casey Brannon, Special Ed. Welcome back.
Howdy. Thanks for having me back.
Glad you could make it here today. You remember him from our, longest Mile in Iraq episode, which was back during the COVID time. And we all just got together and said, you know what, let's just everybody call in on a Zoom call and let's just do an episode. And so this one had Wes Brickey. And so for the first time actually in person, we've got our boy Dan Dublin here, and you want to talk about having some stories. This guy right here, this guy right here is the final piece to the puzzle that can really tie it all together. So, Brickey, love you to death. Glad you could make it here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I was on Zoom with my son beside me, asking me everything. So I know it was kind of a mess last time, but just appreciate all you do for us, man.
Absolutely. And then finally, you'll recognize this voice from our last episode. Pooh is back. So, Pooh, glad to see you back down from the Emerald City, or whatever you want to call it.
With my boots on.
Yeah.
The swamp.
Good to see you here, Pooh.
Thanks for having me back.
So, real quick, also go check out our boys at 5 Points Music Sanctuary. We had they got a big lineup coming up here in the near future. I wanted to give them a shout out real quick because we like giving them a shout out before every single episode. They're super good to us. Tyler's done a lot for the podcast. He's done a lot for the show. So just having the opportunity to kind of talk about what he's going on. I know Colby Helms is going to be there sometime in early May. A handful of really good shows coming up here in the next few weeks. Go check that out at 5pointsmusicsanctuary.com. There's not going to be a bad show you're going to have over there. You're going to have a really good time. The schedule's up right there. The other night, I think they had an Allman Brothers tribute band, and somebody was telling me, I guess, who was in attendance last night. They played a special song for somebody who was in attendance. I wish I could remember what it was now. Maybe I'll think about it here in a minute. But, for somebody who does a lot of good for the community, does a lot of good for, like, soldiers with PTSD and stuff like that. He does a lot of outreach for that kind of stuff. For the hearing impaired, he's got the vest over there that you can use and go over there, and you feel the vibrations of the music even if you can't hear it. So, we like promoting that place, and Tyler's been good to us. So go check out 5pointmusicsanctuary.com. Check out their new schedule. Find a band that you like. Find a band that you don't like. Maybe just surprise yourself. Just go there and watch a show. You're going to have a great time. So special thanks to them. Once again, the Burger Company for hosting us here today. One more thing before we get out of here. In a few weeks, it's going to be April 22nd. We're announcing this finally here. We're going to be part of the Franklin County Heritage Moonshine Festival. It's going to be down at Westlake at Crazy Horse Marine. I got some of the details on here. I'll talk about them right before I get off here tonight. But Henry Lee Law, the Moonshiners TV show, is going to be down there, and his brother, and I think his son. They're going to have a moonshine tasting event. There's going to be a bunch of music there. I think Corey Hunley and Matt Powell are opening up the day, and our buddy Colby Helms and the Virginia Creepers are going to be closing it out. So I know at the least Simon and I are going to be sitting down there in a booth, and we're going to be recording the show. Hopefully Henry Lee is going to come on and talk for a minute, and his brother, Kenny. Hopefully Chris will be able to show up down there for a little bit.
We'll have to see what's going on the phone.
We'll probably get Sandra Aranagi. I remember her from some of our early episodes for Lovers Rock Productions. She's kind of putting that thing on, so we'll probably have her jump on the show and talk a little bit. And anybody else that just wants to come on and talk and speak their piece. If you're just kind of hanging around, we're going to be there all day long, and we'll just probably be sipping on moonshine and seeing where the day takes us.
So right quick, I want to address two of the people in the room. Bird, I had a good friend of mine. He's an older gentleman. He said, I went to the doctor the other day, and he said, I got this flutter in my eye. And he said, the doctor said, well, we can cut it out, or, over time your brain will just tell you to ignore it. He said, I've been married to my wife 45 years. My brain ain't told me to ignore her yet.
Good point. Very good point.
And then is Pooh short for Winnie the Pooh? How did you get that nickname?
I'm not really sure how that came about.
Well, I know how it came about. Well, we used to use his last name into Pooh. I can't say his last name, but it was something E. Pooh,
yeah.
And we kind of put it together. Well, how he got that nickname is because poor Pooh was such an innocent, kind sweetheart when we got overseas, and we completely corrupted him to the point where, he was sitting there cursing and doing things, he was a good soul, and he always has been and continues to be. For that little hot minute, when you hang out with damn Dublin long enough, you're going to start dropping F-bombs at some point in time. So our beautiful little Pooh, kind of turned into a hardened asshole there a few times here and there. So the name is kind of ironic. It's kind of like, calling a hitman teddy bear. You know what I mean? Like, Pooh's the kind of guy that could probably kill you with 2 fingers. But he's such a, you'd never know.
Well, I just thought he looked a lot like a Winnie the Pooh, and you looked a lot like Tigger.
At least you didn't say Piglet. That would probably be Gilmore Donnie Seymour. That's probably Piglet right there.
We got to get him up here.
Yeah, we do.
We should. Talk to our combat medic who was afraid of needles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Remember Seymour and I
Pass out the second he'd see his own blood.
Seymour and I had a confrontation one time when we were in Iraq. You remember that?
Yes,
I don't.
No, what happened? Tell us about it.
And Hurd got between us both and threatened to shoot us if we didn't.
Now, hold on. Let's put this into perspective. You and Seymour almost got into it.
Hey,
now, I want people to understand this. Gilmore Donnie Seymour is about the size of an Oompa Loompa. He is probably 4'10" if he's lucky. James Adams is like a variation of Charles Barkley. He is probably every bit of 6'4", 6'5", and a monster.
But see, that's what made it worse. I had to think about it. If I jump on this man, I'm going to look like the bad guy. If I jump on this man and he whoop my ass, I'm going to look worse. So, thankfully, Herd got between us and said, y'all need to go your separate ways or I'm going to shoot both of them. So, I went back to the tent and I put a shirt over my head and I just cried because I was mad. But I think I saved myself. I saved myself from embarrassment either way it went.
Yeah, that was a no-win for you.
Yeah.
That'd have made him look like a real badass,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
And then I'd have had to spend the next 364 days looking at him.
Yeah, he never strike. He probably doesn't strike me the type as vengeful, but getting you back in another way you ain't thinking about, like he might just hook you up with an IV or something like that's got an air bubble or something, and it might just come in there when you're sleeping at night and put rat poison in your MRE or something like sneaky little bastard. But head to head ain't gonna get you. But if you don't take him out in the meantime, he's probably gonna sneak back around and do some serial killer shit to you. You know what I mean? I loved it. Great guy, not a serial killer, but if he was, it probably wouldn't surprise me. Just really quiet, very humbled. You know what I mean?
To be good friends before it was all said and done.
Yeah, these good people.
You know how they had when they had the tent and they had the television in it, and then they had the satellite phones or whatever.
Yep.
Well, at one point, Burke and Thomas were trying to be on the computers and watch the television at the same time, and Seymour was standing in front of the television, and they asked him could he move politely, and he cursed him and said, "F you, I'm not this, that," and then I lost it because you shouldn't talk to women like that. And then he and I were nose to navel. And that's where it went. But thankfully it ended well. And before it was over, he and I went on a mission together when we had what was the unit that drove the long nose trucks?
Oh, you mean the unit from North Dakota?
Yeah, well we had to mix with them one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
747 maybe or something.
That sounds about right. I know they're
Yeah.
from North Dakota.
We ended up having to mix with them, but before we got with them, we had to go meet them at a certain place. So he and I rode together. And then when they split us up, he ended up with one of their drivers. I ended up with one of their drivers.
But a lot of good friendships. I mean, they do.
Start with confrontation.
Yeah.
Well, he bowed up on the first sergeant one day. Seymour did.
That's mind-boggling. What happened with that? How did that happen?
Somebody separated them. I wasn't there again, but I definitely heard about it. And Donnie definitely remembers it.
Sound like he was dynamite
He's something else.
in a
just had
small package, but
That's a good way of describing Donnie. Yeah.
Very humbled, very kind,
Very
very
good-
quiet
good person.
But probably one of those types that if he blew up, everybody and their cousin within a 100-mile radius is going to know
He had a
about it.
chip on his shoulder, and he had a lot of reasons to have it. He was only 4'2".
I was really envious of Donnie because, like, if you were an A driver, he could fully extend his legs and put them up on the windshield of the truck. So he was the only person in our company that could ride in those trucks comfortably.
He kind of saved our lives one time too. 'Cause I was
He absolutely
pissed off.
saved our
I was
lives
so
that day.
pissed off I was pissed off at his truck breaking down. We was gonna be stuck out there in the heat on right there, outside the gate, dangerous anyway. But his truck breaking down saved our lives, but it cost some other American soldiers theirs. But yeah,
Yeah, a
I remember
handful of
that.
people passed us, and then their convoy got
Yeah,
Well,
attacked.
that was our ignorant battalion in charge of us sending us on that route because we knew damn well we shouldn't drive right through the middle of Baghdad.
Yeah, we knew better than them. Like, oh, this road's going to be more dangerous today. Nah, we're going to take our chances on the scenic route instead of going right through the middle of the city where hundreds of thousands of people live. Well, you know what I mean? It's all about odds.
What did we know, Billy? I mean, we didn't wear our shirts when we drove in 130-degree temperatures. I mean, we obviously didn't know what was going on or how to
They
take
wore
care of
baseball
ourselves.
caps.
Yes, baseball caps. Until Hamza's truck got blew up, and then I started wearing my Kevlar jacket at the least through most areas.
so we're looking at 20 years since y'all deployed.
20 years ago on Wednesday will be 20 years to the day that we jumped on a plane from Virginia Beach and flew into Kuwait City. So at this point in time, 20 years ago, we were making April Fool's jokes. I remember. I'm gonna tell one. Brickey here.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this.
Brickey here was dating some chick. I can't remember her name at the time. And and he called her up, I think, because what we were doing April Fool's Day, April 1, that's the day that we took Sergeant Hurd's truck. We told him that we were just going to go, and we wanted to see the naval base since it was close and they'd never been there before. And we wanted to go see Virginia Beach because I'd never seen Virginia Beach. We always go to Myrtle Beach, Redneck Riviera around here. So, yeah, we're going to go to the beach and then make our way back to the naval station, grab some food, and come back, Hurd. We'll be back around 2 o'clock, no big deal. And so instead of going to the naval base, we went straight to the beach. Yeah, we went straight to the beach first. Come upon this restaurant that was on the beachfront. It was me, Brickey, and Siglowski. And we go in there, and they were like, oh, we're closed. The sign said closed, but it was right at noon, and I guess they open at noon. So we walk up to the door, closed, we start walking back, and they come out, no, we're open, come on in. So we going in there, and Brickey and Siggy were both 21 at the time, but I wasn't quite 21 yet. So I went to the bathroom. When I got there, when I came back, she asked me what I wanted to drink. I just said Bud Light, and she never ID'd me. No big deal. So instead of making our way and doing the sightseeing stuff, since I was getting served as a 20-year-old, we decided to sit there and drink booze for about 4.5 hours. And then from there, we hitched a ride to a go-kart track. And my biggest memory of that is watching Brickey ride around looking like Dale Earnhardt Sr. with the Intimidator glasses on, flipping everybody off as we're making the treks.
Ain't that where y'all terrorized that woman's kids?
No, the woman asked us. She's like, we're going to give you a ride there. And we didn't thinking about it, and it was like a few miles away from our car. So when we get, we're in the middle of racing, and all of a sudden the phone starts ringing from Hurd. And then Bird calls, and then Hurd again, and then Hurd again, and then Bird. And the messages are great because you can hear Hurd, like, very, very concerned about his vehicle and what's going on. And then the messages from Bird is like, I know y'all boys are getting into some shit right now. Just make sure it all comes back in one piece or whatever. And I guess Siggy responded and said we made a mistake and got on a ferry. And we were somehow near the Outer Banks of North Carolina. How that made sense to anybody was mind-boggling to me. But we were actually in a ruck march trying to find our vehicle again because it was hot and we were drunk and we didn't know where our car was and we were 3 miles away from it riding go-karts. Finally get back to the car, and the messages and calls are still coming in. We should be making our way back to post as fast as possible. And we kind of do, and we get caught in traffic. And then Siggy and Brickey are like, well, why don't we just go ahead and get some food while we're out here? I'm thinking I'm going to get some fast food or something. I'll be stopping at a Mexican restaurant, go in there and start ordering more drinks. And I think finally we made it back to post around 8 o'clock at night. And Hurd just kind of shook his head and was like, well, I'm glad you're all right from the ferry ride. And then as he turns away and walks, Bird just giving us this look. He's like, fucking ferry, are you kidding me? He's like, yo, boys are 3 sheets to the damn. And then at that time, Brickey is making phone calls to the girl he's dating saying, hey, man, baby, we're getting on a plane now. We're heading out there. They called our number. We're getting on the plane. We're heading out now. And she's crying and losing her mind, and because she didn't get to say goodbye and all this shit. And I guess he finally dropped April Fool's on her. So she calls me a couple hours later, pissed off as all hell. She said, that son of a bitch made me think they were getting on the plane. I was going to get to say goodbye. So I'm going to get him back. What kind of mood is he in right now? I said, well, he's feeling about Brickey good. You know what that means. She said, all right. She said, well, I'm going to call him. I'm going to tell him I'm pregnant. And, of course, he done forgot about his little charade a couple of hours ago. So I said, all right, we'll sit in there. We'll start giving him hell and we'll eat on him. So me and I think Siggy and maybe Casey or something knew the call was coming. It was me. It was some of us knew the call was coming in, and we hear his phone ring and then him answer. And, casual conversation back and forth for a couple of minutes. And then we hear, you're fucking kidding me. No. And he goes on about 4 or 5 minutes, and I mean, he's about to break down in tears, which I can imagine. He's got a kid on the way, and we kind of made our way to the other side of our condemned barracks, with the asbestos coming out of the wall.
Holes in the floor.
Yeah, no big deal. Rust and mold in the showers. Probably athlete's foot been growing on there for 3 years. And then we about halfway across the barracks, and I hear, Branno, you son of a bitch. I was like, why in the hell did she finally tell him? She should have let him sweat for at least a month or two while we were overseas.
I was over crying. I really was hiding under a blanket there because, well, the roof could see the stars under mine. It raining on us and everything in there. But that was a good one. Yeah, she got me.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, hearts dropped. Yeah, I cried.
So y'all got the call. Y'all were going. From the time.
No, I made that up.
No, when we found out we were going, it was get up. It's time to go.
Yeah,
it wasn't no advance notice.
We were sitting around Eustis for weeks
We had
after
just
we
come-
were ready to go.
We were actually not supposed to be leaving the base at a certain point, but every weekend we went home.
Yeah,
Some of us would pitch in and rent a car together, and we drop a person off as you go. And then
Pick 'em
when we
back
got
up
back
on the
that
way back.
final weekend, they just woke us up one morning and said, "Get your shit, let's go." And we got on the bus, went to the Air Force Base, got on the plane, and we're out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So within a matter of what, 2 hours?
Yeah.
it's probably about 4.
Well, when we found out we were going in the first place, when we were in Rocky Mount, when we went to AT or whatever, we never stayed in the field. We go in the field, we train, we go back to the barracks. Well, this one particular weekend, we had to set up concertina wire, we had to dig trenches, we had to sleep in our sleeping bags, set up the 50 cal. We knew something wasn't right. The day when it was time to come back, they had us in formation, and they was like, well, 50 of you will be attached to the unit out of Gate City, Virginia. We'll let you know who that is when we get to Rocky Mount. No, you're going to let us know now. We're not getting on the bus.
We got families to call.
So the first sergeant and the lieutenant, they walked off, and then they came back. And it's like, well, here's who's going. First name they called. I just went on the bus and sat down. The next one was a female. She got on the bus crying. That's the girl that they had to go looking for, and she never did come. I can't remember what her name
No,
was.
she was a little teeny thing.
Yeah.
Little slight girl.
Then, so once we knew who everybody was, we get on the bus, we headed back. We get the bus driver to stop at Appomattox at a liquor store. We get off the bus, we go in, we get our liquor. Everybody that's drinking is in the back of the bus.
So now is this just a private commercial bus or is this Army
It's
bus?
a commercial
charter
bus. They
bus.
rented the
Charter
bus.
bus,
They
okay.
chartered the bus.
From the time they told us in that formation, 72 hours later, we had to get our lives in order, and we reported at Gate City.
Because when I went home that evening, my wife's friend was there. She's like, would you tell her you're not going anywhere? I said, I got 2 days.
Wow.
And to put it into perspective, you're supposed to get 2 weeks by law, as far as I know. 2 weeks by law. Number one, we were certainly not high priority. We were a bunch of damn redneck in Roanoke and Southwest Virginia truck drivers. We were not of high importance. So we should have had 2 weeks at the minimum. Like, you're talking, the only people that get as short as the time of us are shorter are special forces. That's it. There was no reason whatsoever why we should only have 3 days.
And the unit in Gate City knew. They were already at picket when we got down there to SRP. They already knew some of us were going with them, but they couldn't tell us.
But they didn't even tell their people, I don't think, to get their stuff in order until we all knew, like everybody pretty much. So you're talking about lives, National Guard. We're not active duty. We're not even reserves. We are the most ragtag bunch. Like, we are if you come down and you ask somebody that has observed every single military unit in this country from active duty down to guard, and you said who is probably the least mobilized group of individuals, they probably would have looked at us and the people that went over. They said they have no business being over there. And we were given no notice. We were given no opportunity to get our affairs in order. We were treated as if we were special forces, and we were, just thrown right in the middle of it.
So cannon fodder. Yeah, y'all wasn't really supposed
I wouldn't say that so much. I mean, but to our credit, we did wreck our first truck before we got out of the parking lot to go to deployment.
Yeah, so to rewind a little bit, and I know people have listened to all of our episodes. Some of you haven't listened to some of them. You get a lot of these stories back from all of our Iraq episodes. Just go back to our page, AppalachianPodcast.org. You can just type in Iraq in the search bar, and you can get all of our episodes right there. But, this was early February 2003, and I remember walking out of community college and get a phone call from Bird as I'm walking away from CC's Pizza that some reason closed at 8 o'clock at night, and I'm pissed off. And then Bird called. I said, "Wonder what great news he's got for me." And I can't get no pizza. And he's like, "Well, we're going to Fort Pickett." I was like, "What the hell does that mean?" It says, "Probably means some of us are going to Iraq." I said, "Lovely." And we went down to Fort Pickett for 3 days. And at the end of our third day, after we all knew what the hell it really meant, because they were giving us all these mobilization processes, like we were getting flu shots and we were getting this and this, and like, oh, this is just a dry run of what a mob process would look like if you all were going to happen to be deployed. And then, day 3, they're like, okay, well, we were just lying. You all actually are getting deployed, and we had 3 days to get home and get everything in order.
And we never did see that CO again.
Which one?
Rivenbark.
That's true.
Oh yeah.
Never saw his face again.
I remember having to write my name on a white piece of paper. Y'all remember that?
Well, they asked for volunteers.
That's right.
And in the beginning, like the Saturday before they gave up all the names that were going, they said they passed around. So if we want to get people that want to go, if you want to volunteer, so we're not sending people that don't want to go. And all of us young guys just were like, well, we're all buddies, and either we can all go now and go together, or we can be split up and not go later. So we all just volunteered to go. I know, pretty sure all y'all in here, I wrote my name down. Dickhead Purdue wrote his name down. Sutliff Himes.
So,
I'm sure there's a plethora of others.
So other than Bird, this would be the first time y'all had deployed to go live.
Yep. All of it.
I think my response on that paper was get some.
Yeah.
I joined in 1988, and I did the first 4 years in the infantry. And then when I re-enlisted in 96, I'd already had a commercial driver's license, so I ended up in Rocky Mount with them as a truck driver. Okay. And then I had 4 months left on my contract when we got deployed.
Good timing, James.
And you got, what was the big term back then they called it?
Stop loss.
Stop loss, yeah.
Stop
They did
loss.
movies about that
So
stuff.
your contract, and this is only for the reserve and the guard, if your contract expires while you're deployed, you have to stay until the unit you deployed with redeploys. Now, if you're active duty,
You go home.
you go home when your time is up, unless you choose to re-enlist and stay. We weren't given that option.
We were very much second-class citizens.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't rather been with anybody else, I promise you.
No. It was a perfect
I'm telling
storm of like Rocky Mount area, hillbilly Southwest Virginia, and all the dumb fuckery coming together and just making it a perfect storm.
And some of the Gate City guys needed correcting, but once they learned their lesson, other than that, we came together. It was all a big family. But in the beginning, it was like oil and water.
It was.
Well, it really was. I mean, you got Rocky Mount was a mix of country boys from the area and people that lived in the cities. Mm-hmm. Whether it be Martinsville or Roanoke or Lynchburg, and then you had people out in the rural areas. Gate City was nothing but all rural area, coal miner, hillbillies like us, you know what I mean, like us. And so, I mean, it was a culture shock for them, to say the least. But it didn't take us very long, like James said.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say probably a month into the whole thing, you couldn't tell one hillbilly unit from the other.
So I'd like to go around the room and just, like, y'all, like when you landed and the doors opened up on the plane and you knew where you were at, like your first thoughts.
Holy shit, it's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was miserable hot. And it's a heat you can't explain that.
It's like walking into an oven.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like it was in Kuwait cities where we landed. So to put it in perspective, we flew like chartered nice airlines on the way over there. Like you're talking TVs in front of you, like a meal every 3 hours. You got headphones, sleeping pillows, and everything. It was beautiful. Actually, it was a completely chartered military plane, so the cockpit was wide open, and it was post 9/11. So it was probably the last bit of people in the world that got to go up, and the pilot. Anybody wants to come up here and sit in the cockpit while we're flying? So I got to go up there and sit, took a few pictures. Everybody got to go up there and sit. So we flew over in comfort and luxury. Now, for some reason, the dipshits flew us back in like a C5 or something, and we were balls deep, elbow to elbow for 17 straight freaking hours. But I guess it didn't matter because we were on our way home and we knew we'd made it. But yeah, when we landed in Kuwait, my first thought was, it's real. We're here. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, this is happening. You know what I mean? There's no turning back. There's no getting away from it from here on forward.
That flight home, wasn't it take this flight, or y'all got to stay over here
Pretty
longer?
much.
Yeah.
That was it. That's why we
Or
took
you gotta
it.
stay longer. We said, fuck it, we're going. So yeah, that was my first thought. Was this is real now? I mean, we're not quite in Iraq yet, but something was coming down the pipe.
We would have crawled on the wings of a biplane to get out of that place at that point. We were tired of the desert.
Wow.
Month of that wash track. It was brutal. I'd have rather been getting shot at.
Oh God, yeah. I don't think people understand that.
The misery of first getting there is the time we had to wait in Kuwait for the trucks and stuff to come. I was ready to cross the border, get the shit started, get it over and done with. And you sitting there just in limbo. You bored, there's nothing to do. It's not like I gung-ho want to get shot at, but if we're going to do it, let's get it over and done with. And it was the same way when it ended. You came out of Iraq, your adrenaline is always high because you've been in combat for a whole 360 some odd days. And then you cross over into Kuwait, now you're sitting around with your thumb up your ass again, waiting to go home. And they do the dumbest shit. You got to clean the sand off the bottom of a truck that's going to be sitting in a lot that's full of sand.
Yeah, it's in Kuwait.
In the middle of sandstorm.
Yeah. I mean, they would seriously go up there, and these assholes would take like a white glove, and they would go up in like little grease holes on your truck and pull back dirt and be like, oh, your truck's not clean. And you're talking about pressure washing these things top to bottom for 2 hours straight, outside, inside, everything. And they'd find one little grease spot, and you'd have to sit out there for another 2 hours washing it. I mean, it was the biggest waste. I mean, for a country in the middle of the desert, if I was a Kuwaitis, I'd be like, why in the hell are they wasting all this precious water that they got here that we could be drinking on washing these damn, you know what I mean? Like, and yeah, for the first 5 days, so we get into Kuwait, and we're right outside the airport, which is a big major staging area for the first 5 days as we're waiting for our, because what happened is we put all of our equipment on a ship probably in early March. And that stuff all went on a ship. So after that, we were pretty much sitting around with our thumbs up our ass at Fort Eustis with no equipment before waiting for our plane. So now our plane gets there, and then we're waiting another few days for our stuff to come in on a ship. And while we're there, you're talking about a giant, massive circus tent, no cots, no nothing. We're all just sitting there laying shoulder to shoulder in the floor to get sleep at night. If you walk outside the tent, you're watching guys getting flown in that are up in the battle in Baghdad and stuff right now, limbs missing, in pieces, bloody to death. I mean, that's happening right in front of us. And yeah, you're just waiting there 5 days, and finally they come and say, well, your stuff's here. And people start making their way down to the port to get the stuff, and then they ship us out to the middle of nowhere, Kuwait, in the middle of if you've ever seen the movie Jarhead, it's a great depiction of where we were at. Just sand berms put up by excavators and concertina wire over top of it, and nothingness but sand and vastness and that's where we were at for about 2 or 3 weeks.
How long were we there before that sandstorm hit?
You mean the one in Dogwood?
Was it the one? There was one in Kuwait, though. I know when we were in Kuwait, we were stationed in the area.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember. I remember the Dogwood one because I got a picture of me, Brickey, Siggy, and probably Special Ed
I was in
afterwards.
the shower when that thing hit.
It blew the roof off.
In the shower, to give you some perspective, was probably 100 yards from the hangar we were staying in.
I don't even remember taking a shower at Dogwood. So,
but I was in the shower when we did it. In the sand, it was so dark, and the wind was blowing so hard, and the sand was flipping around. You couldn't see the building we were living in 100 yards away. And, I just stepped out of the shower, did a right face, and, as long as I kept walking straight, I was going to hit the building. But you couldn't see it.
You remember that, Jay?
That's how nasty they were.
It was almost like God was mad or something.
I never came out of the tent when they had that sandstorm, but I remember having it. I think that one of the worst things, too, once you left is when we crossed the border into Iraq. The people leading us had no idea where the hell we were going. Because we got lost, and we didn't get to Dogwood until after dark. And then that's when tracers flying, flares going up. We drove through this one little town where there were people standing on the corner with AKs.
I think that was
And you can see tracers going by then, and I'm like, what the? This is some TV type shit. But it was real.
Yeah, I remember that's why, one of the reasons for us is, and we talked about this on this show before with our unit, is we never saw rank. And that's not because we didn't, I guess, respect the rank structure, but because the rank structure was so bass backwards in the Guard, you look towards people that were intelligent. You look towards people that had experience. You didn't look at that because you knew the rank was bullshit. There could be somebody who was an E6 or E7 that was a moron, but somebody that was just an E4 that you're like, man, this is a guy I want to listen to. So we didn't. If you didn't know what you were talking about, it didn't matter what your rank was. We didn't listen to you, and that's why I was so happy, for Adams, for guys like him and Jeff Manns and them folks that we got to know really good in Rocky Mount before. That's why I was, because I remember James telling me at some point in time before we went, or it might have been when we were over there, he was like, "Shit, man," he said. I used to live in Detroit. He said, "That's ain't gonna be no thing for me over here." And you know what? And for somebody like us that's young and looking up to somebody that's a little bit older than us, I mean, that's what you latch on to. You're like, man, this dude right here is confident. And if he's confident, then I know I'm going to be taken care of. You know what I mean? I know we're going to have each other's back. So little small things like that were super important. So, we had him and Johnson and who else was from Rocky Mount? Manns and then Bird and Hurd. Yeah, Pierce. Yeah. This is all third platoon here. We should make this clear again. Every episode we've ever had has been somebody from third platoon. James was also in third with us. At some point in time, we need to reach out to second and first platoon guys and get their aspects of everything. But, James was also third. So when we're talking about the third guys, us Rocky Mountain was, everybody at this table, and then Johnson, Manns, Hurd, Dick Dew, Purdue, a couple others I'm trying to think of who else. Bateman, Zaglowski. Look at Adams, and I'm like, man, these guys got life experience, man. I'm glad they're on our side. I'm going to listen to what they got to say. I'm not going to listen to somebody just because they got rank. Because this is war now, none of y'all know anything about war. None of y'all. Except for, a couple of people went to Desert Storm. But even then, come on, Desert Storm was... Well, I guess you had Kemp who went to Vietnam, but he still thought Charlie was out there in the bush. And we're just on a different timeline than him.
Yes.
Yeah, so... you how you gonna lose your wallet sitting in here during a show?
I actually went up.
Special ed.
That's right.
See, I don't. I never took what I knew as making me better than anybody else when I was in the Guard, but I used it to my advantage. And nobody that went over there could ever say that there wasn't at least one point where they were afraid, because I damn sure was a couple times. But then you realize you just have to slow down, do what they trained you to do. You learned a whole lot of stuff being in the service, and then you bring what you learned at home with you too. For example, y'all grew up in, I guess I say the country, what you call it. If you get separated from your unit at some point, what you learned here is going to benefit you too. Because you know how to survive without things that most people have. Living in Detroit, I'd been shot at, and not to confess to nothing, I've shot at people. But
allegedly.
Yeah, well, statute limitations will be up anyway. You probably.
Hell, I don't know. Well, we can't talk about that.
And so I just used that as something to keep me grounded, and then had no issue trying to help anybody else that wanted to listen. But some people you try to tell them something, it's like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm doing it my own way. Well, you go right ahead. You get fucked up by yourself.
I was going to say, as a lot of the younger guys looking up to you, they probably didn't see that fear, but you probably carried a lot more than they did as far as having the experience and trying to guide them in the right direction and try and make sure they got home. Or
that was a burden on me. Not that they put it on me.
Yeah, that's right.
But at the same time, you got to remember too, you had a bunch of young guys. They don't think death is possible. They think they're gonna live forever.
Damn death, hell, double.
Until something happens. It's like the kids in the streets nowadays out here shooting and killing each other. They don't have the concept of life and death. They don't know what consequences and suffering are. But when you get older and you watch people who did not make it to where you made it, you start to feel a certain way. I got to change my stuff or I'm going to end up where they are. So when we went over there, I took it upon myself to always try to help anybody that needed to help, especially y'all. It's like we were family before we crossed over the water. And I had, one guy got in trouble over there one time, and his punishment was left up to me. And I had to remember, I'm talking about you. But I wasn't too harsh on him.
I don't even remember this.
You don't remember?
Call me out, because I don't remember this.
I don't know what you did, but I was the squad leader at the time.
I think y'all did talk about this.
And Hurd was the platoon leader, I believe. Yeah. And you had done something, and they left it up to me.
Was this in Iraq?
Yeah.
Oh.
They left it up to me what was going to happen, and we had to meet in the Connex and discuss it. And they gave me 3 options, and I chose the least punishment. But I just don't remember what it exactly.
I'm pretty sure I know what it was.
Billy, you're sitting here smiling. There's
No, I really
way
don't.
that you don't remember
I
that.
swear on everything holy, I have no earthly idea what he's talking about.
His punishment had to be losing to me in the finals of the Nintendo GameCube football season championship. I'm pretty sure that's what the punishment was.
Bird, I threw that game to make.
I understand you did.
I threw that game to make.
I could score on you all day long, but I couldn't stop
Yeah,
you.
but I don't remember what you did, but you had gotten in trouble for it. They left it up to me to decide what the punishment was going to be. And then Hurd walked out of the Connex, and I just sitting there like, what in the hell?
It's either a ball cat turned backwards or a red.
One of the two. Carnal sins.
One of the two. Yeah.
I think it was the ball cap, and I think it was because someone outside of our unit saw you out of uniform.
To be fair, everybody was out of uniform. For whatever reason, I was the one that got caught. I don't forget, But I mean, there for like, okay, so the first bit of the war, the first few months was bloody as all get out. And we got there when it was still bloody and going on. And I think after being there, for us running missions in Iraq for about a month, that's when it kind of started ceasing and calming down. And that's when everything just dispersed. And there for about 2 or 3 months, up until about July 4th weekend, Iraq was the most boring place on the planet. I mean, it was really Sesame fucking Street, nothing going on. I mean, it got to the point, and this is sadistic to say, but I was just like, shit, I'm just going to go down the road. I'm going to turn my cap on backwards. I'm not going to wear my vest. I'm going to sit out of the top of the truck going through Baghdad, and I'm just going to dare somebody to do something because we are so freaking bored. Just do something. And, and them times got blew up, and I was like, all right, well, they mean business now. Let's start, but I mean, that was, for those couple months, it was like the eye of the hurricane, I mean, like, nobody could quite understand it. There was nothing going on.
I'll tell you what changed. They changed the rules of engagement.
That was part of it.
Up until July 4th weekend, like he's talking about, if we felt threatened, we were authorized to use deadly force. And after that, you had to be shot at, you had to be bleeding, you had to, be almost dead. Before you were even allowed to defend yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what changed.
Another amazing thing that I realized after we were there for a while is that the A driver knew where they can go to sleep at while they were going down the road and when to wake up and pop up out of their hole. It just became natural to you. And when and I got put in the truck with Thomas, she's a female in case you didn't know, when we were going to switch seats, it got to the point where the driver would just stand up, the A driver would slide over. We'd never have to stop the vehicle. It became like clockwork. And that going to sleep part, it was good for a minute until that one night we had to spend the night at the fuel point. And
I remember that.
I had a cot actually up under a trailer, and they started doing the call to prayer, and it scared the shit out of me.
What's the call to prayer?
Over loudspeakers, they do
over the whole city. You
they do an Arabic prayer.
Okay.
Calling Allah, and you got to remember you're in the middle of a Muslim country. You're fighting with insurgents. You're out in the middle of nowhere now because the fuel points are along the side of the highway with concrete slabs as the barrier. And that call to prayer come on at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you just laying there in the cot wondering what the fuck. I thought they were coming over the wall. I just grabbed my weapon and took the safety off and was waiting, but luckily nothing happened.
So y'all spent a lot of time on the edge.
The entire year. Because, and we talked about this before on the show, there is no other military unit in the history of war. We're talking any war. And I can't speak for other countries because I don't know what they consider war or not, but as far as the United States is concerned, there is no other unit in the history of our military that has as many combined man miles, which is missions, ran in combat as our unit. And in fact, when you're talking probably to the top 10 in the world history, all sitting around this table right now, because I don't think many of us got to go home for 2 weeks. So we didn't get that 2 weeks home, and we were on every single mission.
Well, I was one of the ones that actually did.
Well,
I got to go home and I was feel bad.
And I thought that was going to be the hardest thing in the world was coming back, but it was easier than going home.
It was. It was.
You
So-
got unfinished business.
So a man mile, Chris, for anybody who doesn't know it, so say our mission ran from Balad, Iraq, which is Camp Anaconda, down to Talil Air Force Base,
Yeah.
which was in southern Iraq near Nasiriyah. So that was about 300 miles. We're talking Rocky Mount to Myrtle Beach, and we would make that trip every single day. So if me and Brickey right here were in a truck together, one of us drove half the mission, the other one was out of the turret manning a weapon. Second half of the mission, we switched places. So that's 300 miles down. That's 300 miles for Brickey. That's 300 miles for myself. When you add every single person up and you add every single mile up, our unit, just a podunk hillbilly / Martinsville Roanoke mixed up group of degenerates, ended up having a combined 2.4 million man miles running combat missions through the most dangerous parts of the world. The next company behind us in Iraq at the time had 1.4 million, which was a million less than us. And after we left, they stopped running long haul missions like that, and they would start segmenting them out to where you would just run shorter missions to different bases, and they would trade off, and then another unit would run this one. So we were the only ones doing like long haul across the country escorts and stuff like that. So there's nobody in the history of combat that has
And
as
with
many
no
combat
casualties.
miles. Not a single. Every swinging dick came home. We meant business out there on the road, and you know.
So
Well,
that's why you're a good truck driver now.
Well, I mean, that's a walk in the park. No, I didn't really drive trucks much over there. That's the thing of it. I was mostly a gun truck guy, so we didn't even. I mean, we the first 6 months or so, or the first 4 months, we escorted our own guys with flatbeds and stuff, and then after that, we all pretty much just became gun trucks, and we were escorting other people. We were escorting third world nationals. We were escorting American truck drivers that were doing our job, making 3 times as much as us over there at the time, and
We were escorting other units.
escorting other units. You know, that's what we turned into, was an escort unit. And even then, we still. So if we had never turned into an escort unit and we kept on running all of our trucks, we might probably be at 3.4 million man miles or something like that. And you're talking everybody at this table, you know, pretty much for the whole year, other than a couple of weeks, stayed over there, didn't come off missions, went on every single mission, every single IED, every single shot that was fired. And we brought every single one home, and it hasn't been touched since. That number will never be touched as far as because it's so easy to be able to manipulate those routes now. It's so easy for people to come in there and make your routes hell, so you can't afford to go 300 miles in a day because they're going to wear you down and tear you down from ambushes and stuff like that. But us, the difference in us and every other unit over there is we took the top out of every single vehicle. So it doesn't matter if you had a 9mm, M16, whether you had a SAW, a 50, or a Mark 19, you were out of the top of that vehicle going through towns, and you looked like a force. You had to control the fear because we were survivors, you know what I mean? And if you didn't control the fear, you were as good as dead. But also, along with the fear, you also made friends along the way. You also found these Iraqis, and you bought beer from them. You bought liquor from them. You put money in their pockets, and as far as they could go, as far as their influence would go, nobody would attack you, nobody would mess with you. Why? Because you're putting money in their pockets.
Yeah.
You're buying their product. Hey, these guys are good. They come through here. They're tough.
But if you look back at it, that was probably one of the dumbest things we could have ever done.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they could have poisoned us, you know. But
it just goes to show you that at the end of the day, most of the people around the world are just like us.
Yeah.
Those people over there were trying to live their lives just like us. They're like,
and I
well,
tell anybody any day, if somebody was to invade the United States, we'd be doing the same thing to them that they were attempting to do to
And
us.
skipping.
yep. Hide
The
behind-
difference is we hit what we shoot at.
Yeah, and that's a good thing that
Yeah.
they didn't
Yeah.
most of the time. Now, speaking on coming home, I drove a tractor trailer for U.S. Food Service before I deployed. When I came back home, my first day out, it's 4 a.m. It's pitch black. I'm running down 460 with 2 wheels in the
Riding
right
the
lane
zipper.
and 2 wheels in the left
Riding
lane.
the zipper.
And I'm just scouring the side of the road. And then I was like, man, I can't do it. It was too soon is what it was. So they offered me a job doing security, and I'm like, I'm going from $50,000 a year to $10 an hour. I can't do it. So I left and went to the gas company, and that's where I've been ever since. I drove a truck for them, but it wasn't over the road. You pull the backhoe, you get where you're going, you do your work, you go about your business. But yeah, it was a strange feeling.
You hear in the news all the time PTSD and how veterans have a hard time readjusting to society. The problem is when you're overseas, you're living day to day, and you're not living, you're surviving day to day. You wake up, you're ready for lunch, you look forward to lunch, get through lunch, you want to go to bed and start the next thing the next day. You can't afford to have dreams. You can't afford to take your mind off what you're doing. And you come back to the real world, it's like a time warp. Nothing's happened here. They're still going to Walmart. They're still watching movies. They're still doing anything they want to do in peace. And we were aliens. Everything was alien to us when we came back. Even though we used to live that way, that wasn't our mindset. I don't know about these guys. It took me about 2 years before I could comfortably talk to people again.
When you have a confrontation with the enemy and you're in a war zone, there's one solution: kill them. When you come home and you have a confrontation, you have to make yourself separate yourself from that same thinking. Because your desire is not to hurt them now. Your desire is to terminate them. Eliminate the problem. Get them out of the way.
That's your instinct. Eliminate it. Get it out of the way.
That's when you pray that you still got a little left in you to separate the two, to either ask for help or to know the difference between right and wrong, because the police not going to give a damn what your reasoning for it is.
That's right.
You got PTSD, so what, this, that, and the third. You still going to prison. You lose whatever benefits you earned the time you were in the military. So then people reach out for help. You have other people that consider that a weakness. In my mind, the ones that refuse the help are the weak ones. Because if you aren't woman or man enough to stand up and say when something's wrong and you need help doing it, then you need more help than the person that's willing to say they need it. I needed it when I got home. I was fucked up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was just, while we were eating, I'm the outsider, and I mean I know that, but I was listening to y'all, conversate and watching y'all, and even 20 years later, it's a brotherhood. Mm-hmm. And I got this feeling that, if one of you was in need, all you'd have to do was pick your phone up. Oh, yeah. And you wouldn't have to worry about that. If you call on one, the rest of them will come. And that's something that the world doesn't get to see, and I don't understand it. I mean, I know how it is with me and the boys I grew up with, that brotherhood, but we've never fought for our life with somebody trying to take it on a day-to-day basis. So just watching y'all intermingle and, kind of catch up, that's a brotherhood.
You can ask anybody that's ever been in the military that has gotten out, do you miss it? And the first answer from all of them is going to be, I miss the people.
Yes.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah, it's not going to be the bullshit, the commanding, the rank and structure. It's the people that you make a relationship with. When we used to go to weekend drills to Fort Pickett or AP Hill, we do whatever we were supposed to do that day, and as soon as they told us we were free, we're trying to figure out who's going to get the beer, who's going to get the fish, who's going to get the hamburger. We'll sit around and we'll drink and we'll laugh and joke and play cards, and it's never an issue and no drama unless there is a outsider that doesn't understand the dynamic that intervenes sometimes, but that gets taken care of quickly too. So, but it's what it is it is a brotherhood. And I would lay my life on the line today for anybody at this table and the other people that went with us, because they did it for me when I needed them to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
And there wasn't any doubt that would happen.
Yeah.
None.
Like when I came home, like for the 2 weeks, I always thought if you get deployed and they give you an opportunity to go home, shit, I'm not coming back. But when I got home, I couldn't wait till that 15 days was up, because your conscience is eating at you, because you know you left people over there and you're not there to watch their back.
Yeah.
And if somebody would have got killed while I was at home, that would have tore me to pieces.
Yeah, I mean, because you're supposed, you
Yeah.
felt like you needed to be there,
Yeah.
to have their back, and instead you're at home.
And then once I got back, I was happy to see these little dusty individuals.
Dusty, smelly individuals.
Well, that's why, when I ripped my ACL and my meniscus, and my knee had literally swollen up to 2 sizes its normal size, and I could have sat there and been like, y'all bastards fly me from here to Al-Asad to Kuwait right now in a helicopter. Look at my knee. I'm not going back out there. But I didn't. That's 1 month in. I could have been done. That was the worst part. I could have been done. I said, no. I said, put me back in the truck. And I got back in the truck and went back through some of the worst parts of the world. And I even looked at, Purdue was driving me that day, Dick do. And I told him, I said, if something happens today, I'm not mobile. I'm sitting in this truck and I'm going to fire until it's said and done. If you got to go, you got to go. I said, but I'm not getting on a helicopter and leaving. And then you get some people over there that'll freaking get sent home for a cuticle or a broken fingernail or a broken toe or some crap like that. I'm over there on a snapped ACL and meniscus because if something happened to these bastards and I wasn't there, I would have never been able to live myself again. A knee can be fixed later. And after about a week, I got to the point where I could limp around a little bit better. In 2 weeks, I was walking on it now. It was very tender, and I probably couldn't move as good as I used to. And I re-injured my knee over a vicious game of Uno at some point in time.
I tore my meniscus and I borrowed somebody else's knee braces so I could stay in the game.
Yeah. And Purdue, he'll be here in a little bit. He snapped his arm in half, and he got sent home. This was about 5 months in. He was forced to go home. And I think he ended up cutting his cast off and lying to the people and doing he had to do like a physical fitness test and do X amount of push-ups or something like that to prove it. And he had cut his cast off early and suffered through that just so he could come back and make my life a living hell.
I couldn't leave you without your daddy.
I'm gonna have to cut my visit short here.
That's one of the first times I've ever seen Billy speechless. Not have a comment for something.
James, it's great
All
seeing
right,
you,
yeah,
buddy.
James is going to get on that. Hey, look, we'd like to do these shows, every 3 or 4 months or something because we always have stuff pop up and new people. Next time I do it, I'm going to give you a call again. You come on back down because we want to do it again. So we appreciate the hell of you showing up here today. We're going to keep on going the show. We're just going to say
y'all
about
for
it.
having
Hey, maybe next time what we need to do is we know that y'all are getting back together. We get some fish and James can cook his. We can do a fish fry.
Yeah, we can do something like that. All right, so we just said goodbye to James Adams, and I know he's going to go back and listen to it. A bunch of our guys are going to listen to this and stuff, and just such a huge amount of respect for somebody like that. For him, as we said many times before, we really never respected rank. We always respected the person. And James, although he was all of our rank, all of us I know sitting at this table, I think him and Bird were equals, because of their experience. But as far as me, damn Dublin, Pooh, and Special Ed right here are concerned, we looked up to them all. We looked at them, as big brother figures or even father figures, and we kind of talked about this, before he left out of here. It's, you live in this crazy world, and I'm not going to go off on much of a tangent. I want to get back to the stories at hand, but in this crazy world we live in, where everybody wants to sit there and scream the most ridiculous absurdities about humanity, about race, and about religion, and about this and about that, and about all this bullshit. James and Marvin and Jeff Mans and Pierce and a lot of the black guys we had in our unit, I looked to them as much as I would anybody else in the world. I either looked at you and said, you're somebody I want to listen to, or you're somebody I'm not going to listen to. And that was pretty evidently clear from the beginning. And most of it stayed true for the entire time we were there. And if you're somebody that can just dip down into throwing, accusations of racism or this nonsense in an argument, most likely you were just a soft-sheltered pansy, and you've never been in a situation where that bullshit really doesn't exist at the end of the day. Because when your ass is on the line, none of the rest of that stuff matters. You know what I mean? And we're a prime example of that. As I said, if James, for example, and I'm just going to use him because he was here, he called me, I hadn't seen him in 18 years before today. I've kept up with him, through the internet and stuff. Like I have a lot of the guys. We don't get a chance to see each other as often as we'd like to. But not after seeing him for 18 years. If he hit me up early this week and said, Riddle, man, got a body somewhere, I need to bury it, I would be there in 2 seconds, no questions asked, shovel in hand. And I mean, that's hypothetically speaking. You know what I mean? I'm not saying, but that's the brotherhood. That's the strength.
That's what you're trying to get to, the brotherhood.
And it does, and we can have this everywhere in the world. It does not, you don't have to be soldiers. You don't have to be somebody that, but if you've never had your ass on the line, you probably can't comprehend it as much. You can't comprehend that people don't have to be separated into categories. People don't have to be separated into boxes about, which God they worship or who they love or what, race they are. All this nonsense they continuously use to divide us. You look at a situation like we got here, where we got hillbillies from Southwest Virginia. We got, descendants of bootleggers from Franklin County. We've got damn Dublin. We've got guys who live in inner city in Roanoke and Martinsville, and we all somehow come together. We get over our differences in the first couple of weeks. We iron them out quick. Iron them out. That's what James was alluding to earlier. We had a problem in the beginning, iron it out quick. Figured out, you know what? At the end of the day, we all came home. We all came home alive, and we all came home better people. So, I mean, just
to add on to that, I have a whole new respect. Like, I'm sure if y'all have listened to the episodes, I wanted to serve. I blew my knee out, and my family doctor, he wouldn't clear me to go. That was the one thing I had to get cleared, and he wouldn't clear me.
Well, thank God for him is all I can tell you.
Well, I mean, we talked about that, and sitting here, while we were eating, listening to y'all share stories, and I'm actually sitting here, and I'm like, that was a blessing in disguise. I hated it at the time, but I have a whole new respect for you guys. Just watching y'all intermingle and listening to y'all share these stories. And I heard in the conversation earlier that you kind of feel like you might have a label on you. The only label you should have is a hero, because that's what y'all are. And there's a lot of heroes that don't get to come home. And for our service men and women to go put their lives on the line. And I've had bullets come by me hunting, and you don't hear a bullet unless it's close.
Right.
But y'all lived it for 365 days, and multiple times they were coming by close, and some of you got hit. To put a label on a person because they can't fully readjust coming back home into civilian life, that's bullshit. You should be, if you have a friend like that, you should be putting a hand out. Because that could be the difference in them taking their life, or them succeeding in readjusting to that civilian life. Mm-hmm. Because you damn sure don't know what they're going through, and it's mind-boggling to hear y'all talk about some of this stuff. When we're off air before we got started, and. Well, really the only label y'all should have is heroes.
Well, it really is that simple, though. You know what I mean? It really is that simple of just trying to put yourself in those shoes, trying to, put things into perspective. We're not, I don't think any of us had any kind of crazy notions that we were wild warriors. We weren't. We weren't gung-ho. We weren't hoo-ah. We weren't, army strong. We were none of these things. We were a bunch of random people who didn't sign up for this shit. Right. They got thrown right in the middle of it in a place we didn't belong, in a place we weren't trained for, and in a place that nobody really gave a rat's ass whether we come out on the other side or not.
That's what probably made y'all stronger, though.
Oh, it made us incredibly strong. Mm-hmm. I mean,
because y'all had to adapt and overcome, and y'all did it. Like you said, you ironed out your differences quick, and whether you knew that you did it at the time or not, like putting following James, and then like your mechanics, and everybody kind of had a role that they played, and when you put those pieces together and start running like a well-oiled machine, then you come home.
Well, and the thing about it is that I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat or lie about it. I guarantee you that a lot of those issues we did have in the beginning that we had to iron out, they were racial. And that was because, we live in this brainwashed, conquer and divide, crazy society that we live in. But on the other hand, like those guys in Southwest Virginia that we were going over there with, they legitimately were from coal country, and they legitimately had not been around that many black people in their life. And the ones they had been around had been very much so assimilated to their kind of society. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not a knock on the fact, you get somebody like James or Marvin or Jeff, they live kind of in the city area of Martinsville and Roanoke and stuff. They've got a different mindset than those guys. So, it was that culture shock. And it wasn't that they were racist against them or anything like that. It wasn't that they hated them because of their skin color. It was just simply a culture clash. It was, we don't understand this culture. Y'all don't understand our culture. But literally only took a handful of weeks for us to all, iron those differences out and realize that, we're honestly a lot alike.
Yeah.
A lot of the people in these ghettos across the country, a lot of these people in these bad neighborhoods, that cops go into, that are gang ridden and gang violence and all this kind of stuff. A lot of the same type of people live out in rural areas as well. They just live a little bit further apart, but they have the same kind of mindset. You know what I mean? They have the same, honor society, honor your family, and you might get crazy and do something stupid just because somebody talked about your mom, but it's just your culture. So at the end of the day, a lot of these people are more alike than you give them credit for. So in about a month, probably maximum, we had all ironed out our differences and found out a way to all come together and look at each other like. And it wasn't really a problem much for us because we're all from around here. But the guys from deep cold. I mean, there's not that many black people down there. That's the long and the short of it.
This whole situation kind of reminds me of Cat Williams. They're talking about black people in the city and rednecks. If we were ever invaded, the black people in the city be like, I'm gonna hang out with them fellas because they can shoot the wings off a fly sitting on a horse's ass at 500 yards, and the black people, he's like, y'all take that wacky tobacco in there you smoke and run them out, and we'll get them as they coming out. I mean, it's kind of the same concept. I mean, different cultures.
Well, Thomas Sowell talks about this a lot in a lot of his books, and he's a phenomenal, philosopher and economist. Thomas Sowell, black gentleman, and he wrote a book. It was called Black Redneck, White Liberal, and he was talking about a lot of the differences and a lot of the similarities and stuff like that. And honestly, most of the similarities you see that are in black ghetto culture today are mirrored by the same crazy southern lifestyle of rednecks back in the old time, and even back to Northern Ireland and or Northern England and Southern Ireland and stuff back to the days before America. It was just this crazy culture where you do crazy stuff. You'll go racing people for money. You'll race cars. You'll race boats. You'll do anything crazy. We are so much alike, and I think without trying to not get off on a tangent, but we are so alike, and that's why we were able to come together the way we were and come home and bring every swinging dick home. And right. I want people to follow that mold. I want people to stop throwing, this racial nonsense and racial bullshit together to try and divide us, because at the end of the day, just find some common ground.
That's right.
Well,
go ahead.
You said something earlier. You said we were heroes. We're not heroes. We might be patriots. This country's worth fighting for. This country's worth saving. All this woke BS that's going around today, 10 years from now, it's not going to be here, because those idiots are going to grow up and see what the real world's about, and they're going to say, what in the world were we thinking?
Yeah. Well, from my perspective, y'all are heroes. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Y'all put...
They really are. 58,000 miles on average right here alone, just, and 7-8 months without a day off. Driving those roads, getting blown up. It was, they're heroes. They really are.
Yeah.
And in our days off, it was like, oh, y'all ain't doing nothing today. Go sit out here in the guard towers. Like, what? We have no experience sitting on guard towers. Or go out here and we need y'all to stop and frisk people coming on base. What do you mean stop and frisk them for what? Well, bombs and stuff like that. I said, you got fucking mind? I mean, I'm not going to... Oh, good.
Oh, with your daddy.
Oh.
That fella looks familiar.
Well, the man of the hour just showed up here. We're going to hit a quick break real quick and we'll jump right back on here.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, well, you ain't got to say much. So for anybody wondering, God, I don't want to say his nickname. I'm not because his kids are present, but Purdue is here with us. And for anybody who knows about the Horseman days, he was one of those guys. We've had numerous stories about him. He was a guy that snapped his arm in half when we were overseas, and instead of staying home like somebody with common sense, he cut his cast off and then lied to the medical people to say his arm was better just so he could come back overseas with us only after about a 2-month hiatus. And not only did he get to skip out of the hottest months, I'm talking, June, July, and August, I don't believe he honestly came back because he really cared about everybody else. I think he honestly came back to make sure that I couldn't have an easy and comforting, drama-free deployment. He came back here just to give me hell nonstop, and that's what he did the entire time.
For you, Billy.
So we've talked about him many a times on this show, so, welcome by him. He might jump on here and say a few words. He said a few words in our Longest Mile in Iraq episode. He called in and had a few comments. He's not a man of many words in public. He just is a man of many words in my ear and in my head and in my dreams for the rest of my life that I got to deal with. But he's one of those bittersweet brothers. I love him to death.
So he's kind of like Yoda. He's always messing with your mind.
Do not give him that kind of credit. He is not anywhere near the mental genius of a Yoda. He's more along the lines of a Forrest Gump, and
Don't talk about your daddy like that.
His son's getting ready to spill his drink.
I will say this, Purdue.
If y'all knew the stories.
I will say this, Purdue. This all would not have happened here today if you wouldn't have raised him and instilled the morals that you have and raised him right.
His daddy.
That's right.
I've done nothing to him.
I wish y'all could see Billy's face right now. He's got like this kid in a corner that has just been putting time out with his eyes rolled up.
Thank goodness Willie P. got us all those good pictures of you two in your younger days.
Speechless.
Trinity, I would love another double counting Coke, please.
Anything else for anyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
We almost had it made. Purdue almost didn't sign up. We almost had it made because me, Settled and Himes were in. We were ready to go. And at the very last second, he was like, well, I can't let y'all go without me. I wish to God he would have.
Well,
But
if he
it's-
saved your life anyway, jumped in front of that bullet for you.
Those are lies.
She did.
Those are lies. I saved him that day. I'm the guy that's the hero. But that's a whole nother ball game. That's a whole nother discussion. We've already had a show about that. That was the Longest Mile in Iraq. Go back and listen to it. But Purdue almost didn't sign up. Like, it was the very last day, and we just went to show up to the recruiter's office, and he just ended up tagging along with us. He wasn't even planning on going, and he goes in there and gets taped and gets weighed, and he's like, "Oh, I guess I'm gonna go with you now." I'm like, all right, good. The more the merrier. I will forever eat those words, for the rest of my life of having to be teamed up him as a battle buddy overseas. But he kept me honest, and I'm proud of him, of the person he's become. I'm proud of the man he's become, being a good father and sticking around in the military. Because as much as I, have a distaste for the military these days, and as much as I disagree with a lot of, how they operate, I am glad that there are people like him, that do still serve and are good leaders, because at the end of the day, as much crap as I give him, he's a good leader. He is somebody that I would follow, and I'll give him hell nonstop until the day I die. But I am proud of him. Casey, don't even say anything.
So you're going to salute him?
No, I'll never salute him. I've said that for 20 some years now. OCS don't care. Sign me back up, draft me, put me in his battalion. I will not salute him. Put me in the brig. I do not care.
You've got a real sour attitude towards him.
Spend a year with him in the desert. Spend a year with him in the desert. Spend a couple years before that in a dorm room with him on a campus
And then a few years before that, taking hits.
In football, I mean, not nonstop. You know, just put in the time and effort that I've put in.
All adds up, don't it?
Yes, put in the time and effort that I've been in, and then reevaluate your opinion of how I am. Because the guys around this table are laughing right now because they know they didn't have to spend the amount of time I did around him.
I'm not so sure he's got all the sand washed away yet.
Talking about me?
Yeah.
You're damn right I hadn't. I got nightmares about it. I still do. I got nightmares about him and Eddie Music coming into my tent.
Bill?
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Bill. It's time to wake up, Bill.
I hate being called Bill for that exact reason. Anybody that I hate it. And I love Eddie Music. I think he was one of the best soldiers we had over there. He was another guy I looked up to. But why, Eddie? And please listen to this show and send me a message on Facebook and explain to me. Why did you come in there and tell me to get up?
Because I told him to.
And 2.5 minutes later, come back up in there and do it again. Give me a minute. It is 4 o'clock in the morning. We have been mortared all night long. I have not slept. I'm not going to pop right out of bed and scream Rosie Day and let's start, get on the ball. I need a couple of minutes to gather myself. Bill, time to get up. Okay, I'm up. 2 minutes later, hey, Bill, I'm up, Eddie. 2 minutes later, Bill, God bless it, Eddie, I'm awake. Just give me a minute to catch my wits about myself. All right. We ain't got nowhere to be. And still to this day, and my biggest mistake was telling other friends that story because now a major percentage of my friendships out there and my circles refer to me as Bill for that simple fact. Just because I gave them that information about being called Bill because my name ain't Bill and I don't like being called it. And for the love of God, I love you, Eddie, but you listening to Lindsey Purdue put you on my bad list for 20 years, and I feel bad for you for that. Just because I was a shammer, I really was. Overseas, I didn't want to do work. I'd already had to done enough. I'd done enough. You know what I mean? Like so, anytime I got a chance, I'm gonna sham out. I'm gonna hide. I'm gonna take all my gear. All my uniforms, I'm going to put them over top of me, and I'm going to lay on the cot. And when Herd comes in there looking for a detail, where's Riddle at? Quiet as a mouse.
I think he stopped breathing, too, just so the pile wouldn't move up and down.
Absolutely, because I hated detail. Hey, real quick, our buddy Rick Reeves just walked in the room.
What's up, boy?
Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. If anybody hadn't listened back, he was our episode about 6 or 7 ago, big-time wrestler, phenomenal individual, employee here at the Burger Company. I'm glad he could swing by here and hang out here for a minute. Where's your belt?
Man, it's on the way.
On the way?
Yeah, my lady, she's out there getting her nails done right now. We just got back from West Virginia, but yeah, it's in her car. She's coming back from Smith Mountain Lake. I'd say I ran over here, but it was just walking up those steps for real.
If you ain't wearing that son of a gun everywhere you go, you ain't doing your daggone. I mean, you should be walking. You should be walking into public restrooms and Walmart with that belt.
I know. I didn't want to miss it. I wanted to come here a little early, make sure y'all are still going. And they said I have it in like 2 seconds.
Oh, good. I like to see it before we end up leaving out of here, isn't it?
You get to see the weight on this thing. I'm telling you, it's kind of heavy. Jam stuff.
And this, once again, this is a big reason why I love doing this show and I love doing what I do. And I love the fact that we've developed these kind of relationships. Because the owner of this establishment here at the Burger Company, Brian, we've had him on many a times trying to, promote his business and talk about town details. And then, here we got Rick Reeves, which is an employee here and is also a big wrestler on the local circuits. And one of the favorite episodes, one of the episodes that Simon came out of his shell and became a whole different person. I mean, you brought it out of him. I mean, you did. You brought the swag out of Simon. I mean, Simon was getting worked up, ready to body slam somebody talking about that.
Hell
kind
yeah!
of stuff.
Hey, that was fun too. I'm ready for it again. We'll get it going.
Well, definitely. Have you spoke with Mr. Basham here in the last little bit?
Yeah, actually. So I wrestled in Atlanta this past weekend, I guess. Yeah, this last weekend, and I went to his house, stayed there. We caught up. It was awesome. Play pool, all this, and this was like right before he signed too. So he had an offer from the Jags, right? And then this is Saturday night, and he got a call. So I was like first on the scene for his agent set up the trip to Cincy. So he just signed with Cincinnati.
Oh shoot, no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, hey, breaking
Let's
news,
go
Franklin
Bengals,
County.
baby. Hey, he might win a ring.
Franklin County, Terrell Basham is now playing for the Cincinnati Bengals. When is he coming back to Franklin County?
2 months. Actually, he's coming in for a visit.
Let's make this happen.
Yeah,
let's make this happen. Let's get Terrell Basham and Rick Reeves both on here.
Oh man, I promise you, we'll light it up.
And let's tell some stories. So yeah, breaking news. Congratulations to Franklin County native and Franklin County High School football player Terrell Basham. Signed a contract with the Cincinnati. That's huge. You know, I mean, we love that kind of stuff. And also, while we're kind of on this, Nick Robertson, we had him on the show about 5 or 6 episodes ago. He just made the AAA roster for the Dodgers, so he's going to be playing with them. Good deal. But
oh yeah,
yeah. So
big thing for the county boys.
Absolutely. So jump back on topic, gentlemen, and I want to know this fact because and we're going to release this episode on April 5th, which will be a Wednesday, which means the day before. On April 4th, we were jumping on that plane and going overseas. And what was going through y'all's minds at the time? Pooh, we haven't heard much from you this episode. You just kind of sitting back and commenting. So we're sitting at Fort Eustis. We're waiting for that phone call. These couple of days, we know it's coming. We just don't know when it's coming. I mean, what for you at the time? You have a fiance, I think, or a different person. I mean, everybody's got their own things. What was going through your mind at the time?
I think just the unknown, really. We didn't know what was going on. The equipment that we had, of course, ended up being completely underrated for the mission that we were doing. We didn't know that, though. Really just the unknown. You didn't know, are we going to, see combat? I think one of the biggest things, too, was Vietnam. Some of us had parents that were in Vietnam. So we were like, are we going to get that same reception when we get back? You just think about a lot of things, preparing for yourself to go over there. So I remember we crossed into the burn campus.
What about you, Brickey? What other than messing with your girlfriend at the time? I
ain't gonna lie, I was scared, to be honest. I tried to hide it to the best I could. Of course, I don't know if anybody remembers, but when we got over there and when we finally crossed the border, my truck was broke down when it come off. My truck was broken down when it come off the ship. So
half the trucks broke down from Gate City to Myrtle, to Virginia Beach. Put this in perspective. Brand new vehicles were breaking down on American interstates for us. So.
That's right. But when we crossed, so I went up with Burke when we finally crossed into Iraq, and because I could just tell she didn't want to go at the time. But I went up with Helton, and we. I remember being the last truck in the whole convoy with 82nd Airborne and all of us. And, we've been awake for a couple of days. And anyway, when I woke up, there was nobody around. So I was like, I looked over, Helton's asleep. I was like, hey man, where's everybody at? And he's like, huh? He's like, comes to, and he's like, I was like, oh. He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? And he's like, well, I don't know where they're at. So we were lost for about a good 48 hours, I think. I cannot remember exactly how we found y'all, but I remember going, we were leaving where we was, and we were on some train tracks, and there was some kind of factory there, and we would go out and look for Americans, which there wasn't any, and then we would go back and hide. And I remember saying hey, if they get me, shoot me, because that's the way it was. That was how my beginning of it really kind of went. I don't know if Helton can elaborate sometime, but that's what I remember on that.
I don't know. All I remember, Brickey was pulled up on the side of the road somewhere over there, and he's called on the radio and says, hey, y'all, we probably ought to move. I just heard bullets flying past my head.
Calm as all get out, too. No.
Hey, come on now.
No sense of urgency. Yeah. No. That's how it was. One time we were outside of some village outside of Iraq, and some part of central Iraq, and Brickey looks down at me like, hey, I think they're shooting at us. I said, how can you tell? Hell, I heard the bullets fly by. I said, where in the hell is it coming from? Shit, I don't know, that village over there, one of them buildings or something. I said, well, what do you reckon we ought to do? He said, hell, just hand me a beer, I guess. but that was our entire deployment. I mean, not really rattled, for the most part and stuff. But I mean, for you, Bird, I mean, 20 years ago at this point in time, we're on the cusp. We know the call is coming. We just don't know exactly what day it is. I mean, where are you at in your life at this point in time?
I was trying to figure out how to tell my wife that I was going on another deployment and not have to admit that I friggin' volunteered for it. I knew what I was getting into, but I also thought I could help by going.
Does she know this now, or will she know it when she listens to this podcast?
I think she knows it. It's been mentioned a couple times on here. Don't know if she's listened to the podcast, so if she doesn't know it and she doesn't listen to this podcast, I'm good.
I won't say a word.
But
well, I think she has met all of us in the meantime, over the years, and I think she's probably come to her own conclusion that, or if he didn't go, these boys probably would have been doomed from the officer. So.
She just knows me. She knows what I would do.
Well, I know they passed a hat down there picking. I never saw the hat, so there you go.
You got voluntold.
Well, I heard like, you're 20 years old, no family. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, he told us that the next day after all our names got called. He said, we all volunteered. He said, y'all were going anyway.
I was like, see the hat.
Didn't even, y'all had which was, fine bus. I'd much rather go with these guys, and I think we all made the right decision at the time. There's not a better group of guys that I would ever want to be around, What about you, Special Ed? 20 years ago for you, what is your mindset as that plane is looming?
I mean, it really didn't hit me until we actually crossed from Kuwait into Iraq. While we were actually at the MOB station, I mean, I was 19 years old, man. The only thing I was thinking about was getting drunk because they were letting us drink underage on base. So yeah, it really didn't hit me until we crossed into Iraq.
Well, that was my answer, kind of earlier to Chris. When we finally landed, what was our mindset, and when we landed, it was like, this is real. This is, this is something that we're not going to get away from now. We've all got to, find a way. For me, I just, I don't know, at the time you're so young and you're so full of energy and you're so full of life and you're so full of confidence and cockiness.
Well, you have that invincible, you tend to lean more as you're kind of invincible too.
Yeah, I mean, we did definitely have a sense of invincible because we were young and dumb and didn't really have a grasp on things because, for our short lives, all we have to rely back on, as far as war is concerned, was whatever history we knew of the first ones, but our only experience was, like, Purdue, love you. Glad you could come by here and get on here for 2.5 minutes. For us, it was Desert Storm.
Your daddy says bye.
Billy, tell your daddy bye. Tell him you love him.
I didn't raise you like that. Don't flip me off, son.
Next time your daddy comes by, get a haircut.
I ain't getting a haircut. My hair is beautiful.
See, Jim.
But it is this little bit of invincibility. We're young and you don't really know where the next turn is going to take you, but we're all over there together, and that's all I really cared about at the time. I didn't think about anything else. I didn't have any girlfriends going overseas. I was too smart for that. I don't want any Dear John letters coming my way. We weren't expecting any of this stuff. We were just a bunch of raggedy tag truck drivers. We had no idea that we were going to get thrown right in the middle of everything. Like, we weren't prepared for it. We had no idea. We had no training for it. So we're flying over there. We don't know what to expect, but I sure as hell don't think we expected what we got.
Can you say the first few words of that last sentence that you just said?
I've drank too much Crown. No, I cannot. What did I say? Remind
Did you
me.
say that you didn't have no girlfriends?
No.
You didn't have nobody sending you letters?
Yeah, I had them send. I had a few, sending me letters and stuff.
A few.
Okay.
Just a few.
I think on the 100th episode, I think maybe Amos was talking about some of the things that he did, the care packages he got sent to you. So.
Oh yeah, I mean there was women that were sending me stuff, but none of them that I had to worry about. Dear John lettering me. None of them I had any kind of love to or ties to, because who wanted that? And for those that had it over there, I don't blame them in the least. Some people had wives, some people had fiancés, some people had girlfriends. I just chose not to because I didn't know if I was going to. I mean, they were doing reports over having crematories in the middle of the desert because they didn't want to send us home because they were anticipating chemical attacks. I mean, you're 20 years old and that's the news you're getting. You're getting, chemical attacks are coming, VX gas and all this kind of nonsense. So, I mean, what's the point?
The funniest thing I remember about having relationships over there, as far as the Army was concerned, we were there probably 8 months. And they changed, I forget which general order it was. There was a general order saying you could not have sex in theater. And, maybe
What's
8.
theater? You're in the desert.
Theater of operations.
Theater of operations, yeah. So,
Brickey, did you break that rule at any point in time?
Negative.
But that's probably 8 months in, and the Army changes the general order saying that if you're married, you can have sex in theater. So that lasted about a week before another frago came out on the general order saying if you were married, you could have sex with your spouse in theater. Because that's pretty much how the Army, talking about relationships and what happened when they didn't specify that it had to be with your spouse.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were selling condoms at the PX long before that ever happened. You know what I mean? If it was illegal over there, what are you selling condoms? You know what I mean? But, I never partook or participated over there because, the ratio was just not big enough, and I wasn't suave enough like Brickey over here to bring it my way. So, I mean, I just sit there and I held abstinent for the year. It was fine by me. But everything leading up to it, we had so much freaking fun. And me and Casey were talking about this story that I don't think has ever been shared on this show before. We'll share it today because it talks about the mode process and leading up to us going. And it was only about 2.5 weeks before we finally shipped out. But we all decided that we were going to take a day trip because, like we said, we had weekends off. We could do what we kind of wanted to. And we all took a day trip to Busch Gardens, their open weekend. It was the first day they were open on a Saturday. And so we had some friends come up from back home, and then, me and Siggy and Casey and
your brother.
Purdue was there. A handful of us. My brother came up, and we all, a few girls and whatnot. We all went to Busch Gardens for the day and, had some fun, rode some. I still got one of those pictures from one of the roller coasters that they take of us. I got that at the house. It's me, Bateman, Siglowski, and one other person, all this kind of stuff. But anyway, so at the end of the day, we left out of the Busch Gardens, and we only had one vehicle there because somebody, the rest of us took a taxi. So we had one vehicle and like 9 people. So we shoved 7 people into the front of the vehicle between the top 2 seats and the rear seats. So that meant 2 people had to ride in the trunk. And those 2 people happened to meet me in special ed right here. So we're riding down the road in the trunk. And I look, and I'm like, well, hell, there's something glowing in the dark right here. Well, that was a handle. Just in case you got thrown in the truck by a monster, you could, hit that handle and get out the back. It was a safety feature or whatever. I said, well, hell, man, let's have some fun with this. So I told they could hear us in the front seat talking to them. So we said, hey, I'm going to tie up Casey's shoes together, and I'm going to bound his arms. And same thing for me.
Put a gag in me, too, didn't you?
Put a gag over top of him. And I said, once I do, I'm going to let y'all know. And the next stoplight you come to, y'all let us know. So they started banging on the seat and said, hey, we're up here at a stoplight. And we hit the lever, and me and Casey start trying to jump out of the trunk, bound and gagged. And the guys in the back seat knew we were going to do this, so their job was to get out at the stoplight, run around, and they just started laying punches on us and beating the shit out of us and threw us back in the trunk and slammed it at the middle of a busy intersection in Williamsburg. And I don't remember much about it, but I do remember the look on the person behind us and the car behind us faces, and it had just dropped. Like, this person was terrified.
I remember that lady's face
vividly. My
God,
it was like she had just witnessed a murder. And they beat us, threw us back in the trunk, and just sped away through a red light at the intersection, leaving everybody just wondering what was going on. And and oddly enough, the cops never showed up, and nobody ever cared to report what happened to us or anything, I guess.
And then we got back to base and had to go back onto base. And
we stayed in a hotel that night. We ended up staying
Was
in
it a hotel?
Yeah, because we went back to a hotel and of course drank a bunch. I remember one night we all just decided to head out to Hampton Roads and get a hotel somewhere near a Hooters down there, and me and Brickey went out there and we ordered somebody to come do a little dance for us.
Oh God!
Brickey sitting there just waving a $20 bill. Right, it's like, my husband's a drill sergeant. I don't give a shit what your husband does. I said, we're on our way to Iraq right now. You know what I mean? We ain't got time for your backstory. Just get up here and start dancing for us. You know what I mean? What's that?
If her husband was a drill sergeant, why was she dancing?
Good question.
Her
you know
number
what I
should
mean?
have never been on that.
No,
He was probably on deployment. If I were betting.
Most likely.
Yeah, I mean, bad women in the military. If you had a woman that held on to you through all that kind of stuff, like Sergeant Major for Bird, you had a good dang woman.
Well, I never took my wife anywhere near an active duty post, ever.
He said, I learned that from Desert Storm.
Do y'all think half the people we were with lost their wife or husband while we was there? I think it was that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, a ton.
It was a ton.
Wasn't there one in 2nd Platoon? His wife left with his brother and
Something crazy.
Stopped up all the drains in his house and cut the water on, and he got back and it was water damage for this. It condemned his house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I don't understand that. I mean, I can understand a wife deciding to leave the husband.
Right.
Why? Because she doesn't know. As mental it is for y'all, it is for her, because she doesn't know if she's going to get that phone call saying that you're not coming home.
Right.
I can understand that, but to do some bullshit like that, that's just, it's throwing salt in an open wound.
Well, you have to. Obviously, they didn't have a good marriage to begin with.
Yeah,
They've been spending every dime of every paycheck that's been coming home. And, the party's coming to an end. And that was just a F.U. to her husband.
That happened to a great friend of ours who's passed now, but, I remember him calling me. I was at BT's in Radford. We hadn't been home 6 months, and he called me and he was crying. Because, he didn't have no damn money. And his wife had, left him and done all that. And he had to volunteer to go right back, and that, it messed with me.
Now, I don't agree with it.
Yeah. That was his
You should be
choice
there
in his mind, was he had to go right back to a damn war zone. And, he's been 5 times. He went right back to, I couldn't have done it. I could not have done that shit. So, just saying. I couldn't have done it. Could you have done it? I don't know. I guess I'd have had to. I'd have done it. We did it once, but...
I was prepared to go again. Actually, after I'd gotten out and my ATS date had expired, I actually got a letter the following spring saying that I was being yanked out of the inactive reserves. And I was actually being attached to a unit that my brother was sister units with down at Fort Benning. So he was full-time at the time. And I just decided, well, okay, then I'm going to go back. And my brother had worked it out that he was going to go with that unit. We were just going to go together. And then a couple of weeks later, I got a letter in the mail saying, well, no, you're actually now going to be attached to a National Guard unit from Iowa. And I said, nope. I said, I'm in school, and now I got a leg injury, and I started playing on that and said, I'm still in recovery from ACL tear and injury, which I was still, in that recovery time. But I was willing to forego that recovery time to go back over with my brother. But I wasn't ready to do that with a bunch of strangers I didn't know. Because I wouldn't want to go back over, that if I were to go back over again, I'm sure I would have made a lot of different memories with a lot of different guys, but it wouldn't have been the same. I would not have wanted to go back over with anybody else but with the guys we went with, because I had that trust. We had that trust built up. It was something that it's really hard for anybody to comprehend. I loved them. I love them to death. To this day, I still love them. So yeah, I probably like Brickey. I couldn't went back over. I don't know how. Pooh and Casey went back over and did it multiple more times. What did y'all even have a choice in the matter?
I didn't have a choice.
2nd deployment, I didn't have a choice. 3rd deployment, I was splitting up from my first wife, and I said, fuck it, I'm going to stay over here. So I volunteered to stay over with Arizona Guard, which, like you said, complete strangers, so I was like an outcast. But I mean, you do still create some kind of rapport with those guys, and they're a bunch of fucktards, if I can say it. So, I mean, they were like, "Oh, we got this guy. He's been over here twice. You know, he's got all this experience." And then I'm like, "Hey, this is going to happen at this area. If y'all don't like cage the brakes on this truck, we're going to get stuck in this hot zone. Fucking break down right in the hot zone, getting shot at." And I'm like, I come over the radio, I told you so. I mean, they would not listen to anything you said. So, I mean.
So, Bird, what was it like for you? I mean, you had already been to Desert Storm.
I was in a different mindset than these guys when we got over there because I knew what to expect.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a very. I'll talk to a wall. Okay, I like talking to people, but I'm not somebody that would say, "Listen, guys, you need to do this, you need to do that." It was like, watch what I do, you know. And like I said, you live from day to day. You don't have an expectation of what's happening at the end of this. You know, that's not to say you don't think about it, but that's not how you exist. And I'm not even going to call it live, because you're not living, you are existing. And when you come home, it's a bear to come back to the real world.
I was going to say, that's probably what makes the transition.
It very much is what makes the transition hard, because
hard.
everybody else around here, they're living life.
Yeah.
We were existing, and we had to get back into that friggin' lane of traffic again, and it wasn't easy.
Goes back to James driving in the center, riding a zipper.
Absolutely. I did it for years.
Yeah, I did that in my civilian car.
Yeah.
You know, you wanting to run vehicles off the road when they do something stupid. You know, you see bad drivers, you encounter them every day.
Hell, I want to do
so
that
bad
now.
when I came back.
You know, in Iraq, we could act on that.
Yeah.
When somebody was doing something stupid,
Yeah.
one of two things happened. They got hurt or we got hurt.
Yeah.
So you turn them off the road to prevent that stuff from happening. And that's your mindset. That's muscle memory by the time we got home.
It was hard to break that when you
And
got
my
home, too.
wife, oh my God. I remember we were coming home from Roanoke one time and we were going up Christiansburg Mountain, and a truck almost came over on me. You know, he didn't see me. We're in a little car. And but it pissed me off so much. I got up by the cab and I went over on his ass. And my wife is just freaking, you know, and I'm not thinking.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a sane thing to do.
Yeah, it's.
But it was just, that's what we did. And it's hard to come back home. I was very fortunate. You know, I've been married forever. I love my wife. We have a strong marriage. And, you know, if she wasn't my anchor, I don't know how I would have come out the other end. You know, when I came back from the first war, I had a huge problem with alcohol. And it got to the point where my wife is like, well, you can have a family or you can have alcohol. And before we went overseas, I'd probably been sober 2 or 3 years. And, you know, they'll tell, we came across heroin, all sorts of drugs, whiskey, beer. And that Iraqi beer is pretty good. Comes from Jordan, I've heard.
We not only came across beer, we probably spent upwards of $100,000.
Yeah, that's probably good.
And those are liberal numbers.
Yeah, I've heard
that
that's a number we might have surpassed. But you know, even when I was in Iraq, and because there was nothing for us to do. You spent all day long in a truck. A mission could last 7 hours or 17. Just depending on what happened on the road that day. And when you got where you were going, you're sitting in the middle of a sand lot, and there's nothing there. What's your entertainment? You get to burn shit. That's the entertainment, because useless active duty people whose job that was were too friggin' sorry to even do that. But so when you had an option to drink, you know, you drank. And I found myself falling back into the same pattern I was when I came back from the first war, and I kind of did a push away. You know, I had enough discipline to do that. It's not to say I didn't drink after that, because I did, but I wasn't buying a case of beer every day either. So, the people that come back and do the best when they come back are people that have an anchor here to help them be grounded when they come back. And even though I had that benefit, it still took me 2 years to be able to talk to people. Like we're having this conversation right now. Yeah. I couldn't have done that. Yeah. And to this day, 20 years later, I don't go in public. I don't go in crowds. I don't go Christmas shopping at malls. Mm-hmm. About as big a crowd as I go to is when I shoot pool. And when you shoot pool in a league, you're seeing the same people week after week, and it's not like you're dealing with strangers. Yeah. I'm just happier than all get out to sit in my house, got everything I want, everything I need, and I'm good with that. And like I said, I'm very, 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 very blessed and fortunate to be in the position I am, because a lot of people aren't. They came back to the broken marriages. All sorts of crazy things happened to the people we deployed with.
So what's something that so if you're a friend of somebody who's in the military and they come home, what's what have you guys been through with like friends of y'all's that have helped y'all get through? I mean, from a civilian standpoint, because we don't have a clue.
The closest friends I have, and I'm 56 years old, the closest friends I have in my life, you know how you can count your best friends, your true friends, and they say if you can count them on one hand, you're fortunate. All of my friends are people I've deployed with. All of them.
So they understand.
They get it.
Yeah.
They get it. They've lived there. They've done it. Yeah. And we know what we would do for each other. Right. And you get it. I was over there. I had a ruptured vertebrae in my neck, two in my back, and I could have sat on a cot and I got on the road, but I could still drive, and I'm a damn good shot. And I'd rather be on the road helping my friends than sitting on my butt doing nothing, worrying about them. So the people that were still on the road driving at the end of the war, all of us had that kind of mindset.
We're right here. A lot of us 30% right here.
I mean, same with me, torn ACL, torn meniscus, and I couldn't, exactly. Purdue breaking his arm and finding a way to come back, you couldn't let those guys go out there alone. You were in it together at that point in time. And I mean, when you talk about, the missions and the road rage and coming back home and having to deal with that stuff, I mean, one of my memories that sticks with me the most overseas is one day where me and Brickey, I ran into a concrete barrier just outside of Baghdad. I guess it was for CIA or special forces kind of guys. And it was because an Iraqi kept trying to pass us and trying to get up in the middle of our convoy. And, I wouldn't allow it to happen. And he would kept on trying, and I'd kind of ease over on him. Kept on trying, and over there, all the trucks kind of looked alike. So, he kind of backed off, and all of a sudden, I look at my rear view, here comes another white truck. Here comes another white truck. I'm like, all right, Brickey, this time I'm going to let this bastard get up to my inside on the left, and when he does, about halfway, I'm going to just run him straight into this concrete barrier, like on 581, one of those kind of deals. He said, all right, I got you. And I did that, and I crunched him up against the wall and scared the shit out of him. Brickey jumps up out of the top of the turret and swings around and points a gun right in their faces. And he comes back down real quick and says, holy shit. He said, I think you just ran the CIA or special forces into the wall. Because it was four white guys with sunglasses. But, I mean, it looked just like the truck that was trying to come up on us.
They should have known better.
Have you met Simon?
Yeah.
Have you met? You hadn't met Simon. All right, we think he's CIA.
Yeah, and he's not here tonight.
And he's not here to defend himself. So
wonder if he knows Siggy's dead.
He probably does. I got no doubt.
He probably knows in the
Siggy.
white truck behind the guys that he run into the wall.
I look down, and Billy has them dragging them, right? And I look down there, and there's and they have an American flag like this, and all kinds of weapons in there. And he's holding his flag on, putting off my job. Billy,
don't care. I didn't know who you were.
Well, it's like y'all said. They should have known better.
They should have known better. Hey, he said,
Billy said, well, their truck fits in better now.
He said what?
He said their truck fits in better now. Because, I mean, it was brand new, you know.
Yeah.
All the trucks are beat up and more, weather beat.
Pooh, you were with me when I ran that car off into the desert.
You did a little more than that too.
Oh, I'm not talking about the bus. I'm just talking about the car.
Oh, yeah.
He laughed for 10 miles. But did the guy deserve it or what?
Yes, they did. Well, that was when they were bringing V-beds coming in and blowing up convoys at that time. They just started that.
We would aim our truck if we saw a vehicle coming onto the road or wanting to come onto the road. We'd aim our truck at them, say, "Don't do it." You know, it was a very obvious, unspoken clue. You're about to make a bad mistake. And this guy, he made a bad mistake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they said you can't. Y'all have to let them in the convoy. You know, we did not do that shit.
No.
Sorry,
the answer to that is no. Right. No.
Yeah.
Wrong answer.
You could never tell, and ultimately, we found out when you let vehicles in the convoy, you end up getting shot the hell up.
Or you'd run over them. None of us in this platoon. Though we did run over that one truck in Samuel that day. But
is that the one you pancaked? And
the front end of the truck was standing straight up in the air. Mm-hmm. But people got hurt if they didn't keep us separated. Yeah. We weren't going to, I don't care what our rules of engagement were, we weren't going to let people in the convoy to hurt us.
Yeah.
And they're in a vehicle that weighs a sixth of what our vehicle does with our loads. And they'd get in front of you and stop, and you'd try to stop, you'd pancake them. Mm-hmm. They're not going to live through that.
Yeah.
It was safer for everybody to keep them away from us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived with that for years. I thought they got the convoy when they got the Billy, and I thought they got by me because I was driving. Usually Travis was driving. When I first got back to base, I remember, I ain't going to say his name, but Sergeant Second Platoon said, why didn't I do something about it? Well, I never seen some of the bitch to do something about it, or I would have. But yeah,
we didn't see him either. We've been over this incident on the show many times. We didn't have a clue because the systems had jammed up our radios, and we could only relay to the truck in front of us or behind us. And unfortunately, it was our truck that got shot up that day. And that's one of the days that lives on with me forever and ever because person in front of us and behind us, also perished. And regardless of what their nationality was or where they came from or what whether they were military or civilian, they didn't get to go home that day. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I didn't want that to happen to anybody. Nobody wants that to happen to anybody. And it wasn't our fault. I mean, we had done everything that we knew how to do to survive. And if it wasn't for dumbass higher-ups thinking they know better than us, trying to throw a system upon us at the last second that was not tested and wasn't approved, then we probably, who knows, something might have been different that day.
I understand testing equipment, but they weren't even testing the equipment that day. Our convoy was 2 miles long. Mm-hmm. This piece of equipment that was in the vehicle, you might have had a 300-meter bubble from the front of the bubble to the back. 300 meters is a lot shorter than 2 miles.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have any idea if the thing worked or not. If something blew up in front of us, well, was it because it wasn't in the bubble yet? If it blew up after us, was it because it was, further than 150 meters behind us? No way to tell. It was an absolute stupidity.
It was supposed to be a cell phone and signal jamming device, and the only thing it really jammed up was all of our communications, so we could no longer communicate throughout the convoy like we had previously done every single mission before this. And this also happened to be the first mission that we ever ran 8 months into our deployment that we actually finally got SAPI plates. For a unit that was outside the wire every single day, there were people who were cooks, who were quartermasters, who were finance people that had SAPI plates, and we, outside the wire every single day, didn't get it till 9 months in.
See, I never knew till that podcast you done in the first one I was on that. So I rode up beside Sergeant Herb Glover. I rode up beside Sergeant Herb Glover, and I was cussing them out because I thought they were ignoring my ass. I could hear it. So I didn't know that nobody heard. That we had lost communications. So it was a big mess. And
Yeah,
then
it
I,
was-
get back to base and accuse me of letting them in the convoy. That shit pissed me off. But yeah,
Well, that's why I left the vehicle behind me, because I knew you were behind me. And in my mind, this is all happening within a space of like 5 seconds, right?
Yeah.
All these things are going through your mind. And I knew damn well that he and Baker weren't going to let a vehicle in a convoy unless it belonged there. So it must belong here.
So we've covered the 72 hours the notice y'all had that y'all were going over. We've covered during the deployment and stuff that's happened, and we've kind of covered like coming home and trying to transition. What about when y'all? What was your mindset when you got the news that you were going home?
I believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Because we got told several times we were going to go home, and then they'd extend us freedom.
Yeah, they janked the rug out from underneath your feet.
one time he come down there and said, one time he come down there, the colonel did, and said, y'all were going home. Well, he was the wrong unit. Remember? It was active duty beside us. That's
right.
crazy. You
Yeah.
can't be messing stuff like that up.
Yeah, in the beginning, we were going to be there 3 months, and then it was 4 months, and it was 5 months, and then it was 6 months, and then we were like, all right, we're probably going to be here for a
Yeah.
year. And then they came and had a meeting and said, yep, y'all probably going to be here for a year now. And when we finally found out, we still,
Yeah.
we didn't believe it because they lied to us nonstop. We were like, well,
So y'all got told multiple times throughout the year
Tons.
that y'all were going
Tons.
home.
That's
but
true.
it didn't
Yeah, we
happen.
had a genius lieutenant colonel. I mean, I hate to, say that about a colonel, but he
No,
was a genius.
he was a freaking genius.
He was.
And we're being very, very facetious.
Well, it wasn't
when we
even
say
about
that.
him. It was just about the war in general. They thought they were going to go in. They didn't have any kind of plan for an occupation. They didn't have a plan for an exit strategy. They had nothing. So we, along with everybody else that was over there, just continued to get extended and continue to get extended and continue to get extended, and every single month. You think that's one of the big reasons why I didn't go home when I ripped my ACL and meniscus a month in, because I was like, well, shit, I'm not going to be over here for a few months. Let me just try and tough it out and stick around with my buddies. When I get home, I'll fix it. And I had no earthly idea we'd end up being there for an entire year. Nobody did, because after you won the war, you couldn't figure out why we were still there. After Saddam was captured in November or October, whenever it was, when we were there, you couldn't figure out why we were still there. So,
It was painfully obvious to all of us that our higher command had no idea what to do.
True.
No clue. We would pass by infantry units every friggin' day, sitting in their fobs, not doing anything, while we're running up and down the road getting shot at every day to supply them to not do anything. And they're the grunts. They're the trigger pullers. We're not supposed to be the trigger pullers. There's a tooth and tail in the military. We're supposed to be the tail. Yeah. We were fighting an asymmetric war, so there was no front lines. It was all front lines.
Yeah.
But
So when you were on that plane ride home and you were actually coming home,
I kissed the ground.
It's hard to describe the feelings that, and this happened to me both wars when I came home. You watch people die in front of you that you're treating. You pick up pieces of people, the things you see, and you get home and it's a happy time. Your family's there. We came back to a gym. Our families were on one side of the gym in the bleachers, and we were in formation in the middle of the gym. And it should be a happy moment. And don't get me wrong, it was a happy moment. But in the same time, in the back of your mind, it's like, I don't deserve to be here.
Your mind is still there.
Yeah, we're still there. We're not home yet.
yeah.
And you're also in the back of your mind thinking to yourself, this is the last time that we're all going to be here together.
Exactly.
The ones that all survived, the ones that all made it, the ones that all decided to stick around and come home. Like, this was the last formation that we were ever going to be together. And as quick as we were thrown into the mix of this was as quick as we were thrown out of it. We got home immediately, and they said, all right, you get to go home for one straight week. From Virginia Beach back here to Franklin County or Dublin or Southwest Virginia. You go home for 1 week because it was Easter. And then you come back and you have 1 week of demob. Now, after us, they started demobbing for 2-3 months. They would sit down and they would psychologically evaluate every single soldier that came through there. The only thing they did for us was they put us in a massive giant room, and they come in there and said, has anybody got any issues?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, nobody's going to raise their hand. Of course,
'Cause we all want to go home.
go home. And then, okay, we all are all good, and they walked out the door. And that was it. That was the only bit of demob, like bring you down from it. Like, I mean, there was a lot of shit that we needed to talk about. There was a lot of stuff that we needed to go over, and they reduced it down to a, hey, y'all good? Yep, okay. And then in the meantime, you know, that fatal mistake that they made by not sitting there and actually spending some time on us, we've lost so many guys in the meantime.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interject, but there's two memories that stand out when we came back to Eustis. One, you know, you're going through and you're doing the paperwork and all that stuff. The girl that was doing my paperwork didn't know what OIF was, Operation Iraqi Freedom. We've been activated for 18 months, fighting a war.
You're kidding me.
No, and the person out processing us didn't know what OIF meant. You know, what world and what planet have you been on to not understand this? And there was another time where they bivouacked us on Eustis, was near Eustis is a training base, a logistician's training base, and they teach helicopter mechanics there. And I remember, you know, when we were over there, we didn't get no uniforms. You know, we had uniforms that were 18 months old, falling apart. We in no way, shape, or form looked like a garrison soldier. And we passed these little classes of people that just got out of basic training, and they're at AIT. And, you know, they'd say, you'd hear them saying stuff about how jacked up we were. And I went off on somebody one time, and their leadership just marched. They didn't say a word to me. You know, I was a peon. They're staff sergeants, you know, first sergeants, sergeant first classes. They didn't say a damn word to me. They got their class out of the AO because we were pissed. At least I was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got, 2 uniforms?
Yeah, 2 uniforms.
They were falling off of us over there.
Yeah.
So do you think that the lack of the D-mob would have been from...
we were the first ones over there. They didn't know how to do it yet.
Yeah, we were guinea pigs.
Yeah.
But
like even from previous, like Vietnam and
oh no! In Vietnam, they had it down to a science. You got back, you demoed. You want an airline ticket, a train ticket, or a bus ticket home, and they'd hand you the ticket and kick your butt out the gate.
So it wasn't like it was a lack of experience. They just didn't know how to do it.
It was a lack of current experience.
Okay.
The people that did know how to do it weren't there anymore.
Okay.
And
they just didn't care.
They didn't care. They, you know, a large part of our job, you know, being soldiers, is to make sure our families at home are safe, to make sure our society is safe, the society's working. And, you know, it's very ironic that you came home and you dealt with people that were doing things like they had been normally for the last 18 months when we were at a war. And it was ironic. It upset it upset the hell out of me. But on the other hand, that meant we were doing our job because they could live that way here.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a hard feeling to reconcile when you experience that.
That's well said. Yeah.
So before we get off here, because I know the gracious people here at the Bird Company put up with our garbage for about 4 hours now. Thank you so much, Trinity. And Brian for hosting us here tonight and allowing us to stick around and have this conversation. I can't thank him enough. You know, 20 years. It's hard to imagine. You know, it's hard to put that into perspective. It's hard to imagine anybody what they were doing, you know, 20 years ago, where you would be at or where you are now. And I just want to go around the table one more time and you know, find out where you're at, you know, and how you're doing, and what we can do as a society to make it easier on anybody else. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you know, we've got an obligation. You know, I mean, what we've done and what we've seen and what we've known, we have to pass that knowledge down. You know, we have to allow people to understand that life is very precious, that life is something that you can't take for granted. It's something that can be taken away from you in an instant, and to be still sitting here 20 years later, I think is a miraculous feat for everybody. So we'll start around, you know, Casey, for you, what have you taken away from the past 20 years? You know, what's something you can look back on and be thankful for? What's something that you've learned that you've still been able to, you know, to keep with you to this point in time?
I mean, I think that after 20 years, man, the camaraderie that we still have together is amazing. Like you don't see that nowadays. You don't. Like you can go see friend groups and everything, and they've broken up. You know, kids that hung out in high school and everything, and a year later they're not even friends anymore. But 20 years later, we're still together. You know, we can come back together and still pick up like it was yesterday. So I mean that means a lot. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this is something my wife kind of has had a hard time dealing with. I have two families. I have my family at home, and I have this family. You know, and I'd do anything for anybody in both families. And you know, she's kind of jealous of that fact. You know, she wanted all the attention. I've got a lot bigger family, you know, that I'm always going to feel that way about. And over the years, she understands that. Like tonight, you know, it's Sunday, normally time to go get my grandkids. And this was happening. I told, hey, I'm going to be in Rocky Mount tonight. She didn't even blink about it because she knows. She understands. But it was a hard thing for her to overcome. As far as I'm doing 20 years later down the road, I'm still here. I'm still kicking. Beats the hell out of the alternative. I'm older. I hurt more. But I still love you guys like family, and I will till the day I die.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just blessed to still be here and yet have all y'all's friends, call you friends. Yeah, I'll get up on this mic because I suck at this public speaking. I failed that in college, as a matter of fact. That's why I ain't get a degree.
You don't say.
That's right.
I'm just amazed he hadn't asked me for a dip yet.
Yeah.
Riddle.
What's that grizzly long
Give me
cut?
a dip.
Give me a damn dip. Now, I remember damn worrying about you back when we first got back, Billy, down in Radford. And, but at that time, my life was going good. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the problem. Is that we got to be there for each other when somebody's life ain't. I wasn't in. I was doing good. You know, you kind of, when you're doing good, you don't see who you're leaving another one behind, I think, a little. And at the time you wasn't, but I didn't pay attention to it. And then of course, I've been to jail. All kinds of shit. 9 rehabs. I don't care to tell it. But it saves a life. So I'm going to keep on going. Keep living for your kids. And, y'all are family. We know what we've been through. And we'll be there for all the ones that need us. God bless you.
That's why nobody should ever put a label
That's right.
on anybody because you don't know what they've gone through.
Nope.
That's very true.
You've never
Very
walked
true.
a mile in their footsteps.
No.
All right, Pooh.
I guess 20 years later for me,
He's still
There-
doing
there's
big
no-
dog shit.
yeah, there. I don't think there's really words that can really describe. I'm still there sometimes, but I take it with me everywhere I go. Even the last deployment that I was on, I still take that one with me as well. I think one of the biggest things that I want people to understand, of course, I ditto everything everybody said here. I'm always here for you. For those that aren't here right now, you call me. I'm coming, of course. But I want the current generation to understand, because they don't know, times that are hard. And freedom is just one breath away from being taken away. And not to get on a monologue, but it's right there at the cusp of it. And I want people to understand that, of course, people would say, oh, you're fighting for freedom. Well, yeah, I mean, we were there for that. Of course we were.
And we might be.
And it may happen again soon. You never know. But don't take things for granted. And that's huge, because a lot of people just go about their daily lives. Well, it doesn't affect me. You know, I'm not going to worry about it until you see an 18-year-old's head get blown off. Then it becomes a reality for you. So that's all I got to say. I mean, it's 20 years later. I'm still glad that you guys are here. I can share this podcast with you, be with you, talk about it. That helps me for sure. And just to listen to you guys tell your sides of the story. I'd like to get some more people on here. Come out. Don't be scared. Talk about it. Catch up. Have a couple of beers. That's it.
Siglowski calling you out.
Yeah. 20 years. Yeah.
And Bateman, too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Bateman.
Bring them.
Yeah, I mean, at some
Bring
point in
them.
time.
We'll give you hell, but that's all right. Come on up.
And we will, everybody. And for me, you know, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for, you know, the guys sitting at this table. And that includes Chris. So, you know, that includes old Rick Reeves right here. You know, everybody that comes into your life, you have to, you know, take that for what it's worth, and you have to ride that wave, and you have to be appreciative of it. You know, I would not have learned the lessons I did. I wouldn't be the man I am if it wasn't for the people in this room right now. And you know, that doesn't have to be solely for people who go overseas together. You know, find those people in your community that you know, you get along with, that you can, you know, that you can live with, that you can have stories with. And I don't, you know, Chris said earlier, heroes. I don't look at myself as a hero. We were complete jackasses and screw ups. We were the only heroes we would have been to each other, and we didn't look at it like that because we just wanted to make sure we came home. And the values that were instilled in me, you know, from these guys, I took on through my life, and I went through my ups and I went through my downs and I went through dark days and stuff, and I was able to come out on the other side, you know, because I'd been through the craziest shit anybody could imagine with the people sitting here. Now I have a beautiful wife, beautiful kids, and I would not trade anything in the world for. So, you know, it doesn't have to be that bad. You know, you can always find a way to pull yourself up, grab yourself by your bootstraps and make it happen. You know, and that's the whole purpose of this show is, you know, to let people know that there are tons of people out there that are fighting every single day, and they're battling, and you don't got a clue, you know, what they're really battling, because you spend most of your time on the internet being critical all day long, and you don't really know what reality is. But for everybody out there that is listening, that knows where reality is, and everybody that does care, there's plenty of us out here, and we all got your backs, and we certainly appreciate, you know, anybody and everybody that puts forth the right foot. I don't encourage anybody to sign up for the military these days for obvious reasons, but at the same time, I'll still respect the shit out of anybody who is willing to put it on the line, and until they get to a certain level, you know, my issues are with top brass. My issues aren't with the guys who are just trying to make their lives better, and I think everybody in this room did it to make their lives better. So, you know, I love each and every one of y'all. I love doing these shows. I love giving people an insight into the stuff that these Appalachian boys really went through. You know, I mean, we're more documented than probably any Appalachian unit that's ever been, and a lot of that is because of this show, because I want people to understand that these are your neighbors. These are people that, you know, want the best for you. I want the best for everybody out there in this community. And, you know, if you're hating on me for my opinions, if you're hating on us for our opinions, then you've clearly got us wrong, because it's all about the betterment of everybody. And I think by sitting here, I think it's therapeutic for us. I think it's good to be able to get together and hang out and show, you know, that we have managed to survive for 20 years. And we can't say that for all of us. You know, we've lost Wisenberry. We've lost Cope. We've lost McKnight.
Mm-hmm.
Who else have we lost from Albertune?
Baker.
Yep.
Baker. Yeah, I mean, that's four. Kemp, yeah,
Kemp,
that's five.
Dowd, Cub.
You know, and some of them have been for bad reasons. Some of them have been through time. Some of them have been through cancer. But a lot of them have been through demons. So, you know, reach out. Speak to people. Talk to your neighbors. You never know. We're all in this together. We really are.
And you don't have to have served to actually be there for the people either.
No, you don't.
Because, I mean, if it wasn't for Amos, and hanging out with you, Billy and Amos, I could have went down a darker path.
Yeah, if it weren't for Amos, I would have went down a truly dark path. He was there to kind of guide me and keep me on the straight and narrow, and that's what it's all about. So.
I would say guide. I wouldn't say straight and narrow. just because I know Amos.
Well,
sorry, no point intended, Amos.
I think what they're trying to say is it doesn't hurt to be good,
Right.
because you don't know what mile they've walked through. But if you see somebody and they need help, help them.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't cost you anything to be a good person.
No.
No.
Maybe a little time.
Time. That's
It's
it.
hard. It's hard to spot them. Those people that need that help. It's hard to spot.
Well, veterans
is.
do a really good job
Yep.
of camouflaging it too.
Yep.
They do a really good job.
Mhm.
And
I would like to say, I'm gonna call you Special Ed because I can't remember
That's
your
fine.
first name. But you mentioned being able to kind of pick up like it never really ended
Mhm.
with your conversations. I watched that with Pugh and Brickey. When we were eating, I mean they were kind of catching up, but the conversation, I mean, it flowed. It wasn't like, "Hey man, how you been?" "Oh, I've been doing pretty good."
it wasn't awkward.
No,
Yeah.
it was, "Hey brother, it's good to see you. How's life been treating you and this and that." I mean, and it was just like it clicked.
Mm-hmm.
And that's special.
Right.
It's because you never leave that place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you see the guys that were there with you, it's just like you were there yesterday. It
Mhm.
really does. I mean, like, I see Bird, and I'm still seeing Bird as he was in his uniform taking care of us over there. I mean, you can't explain it, but you just try and pass it on and just hope somebody can pick up on it if it's just going to make somebody's life better.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, and Chris, you've been sitting here listening to these stories and stuff. I mean, do you have any questions for us before we get out of here? Because, I know just from a perspective of somebody that wasn't there, I like to, or Rick Reeves over here. I mean, if y'all got any questions, we want to answer them. Or Trinity, you've been listening to this entire freaking show doing an amazing
I think she's
job
been
on that.
laughing through most of the show.
She said she didn't want to get on the mic, but we should make her get on the mic.
She's like, he's crazy bastards right here.
No, these stories I love listening to them. Y'all, thank you first off for what you have done for our country. People like me, I appreciate the hell out of you. That's why I get to do what I get to do. And WWE, same thing. That's why they always do the show overseas. Like, look, big supporter. Anyway, we'll get to it. No, I'm telling you, just hearing the stuff that y'all went through and being able to talk about it, that's awesome. Having that brotherhood. I talk about it with some of my, like with Terrell, right? Me and him, we say war together. Y'all literally went through war together. Like, I can imagine the feeling. So, again, just, this is about y'all. Thank you for that. The awesome stories, hearing what y'all really went through, like hearing that shit up in person and seeing the emotion behind it, like, but keep it intact. I can see how the stuff y'all seen is different. Like,
Do y'all remember when WWF or WWE was
Yes.
over there at Christmas
Yes.
time? I bumped into the big show, and I turned around, and before I could look up at him, I was like, "Get the F out of my way!" And then I looked over, like, holy crap, this is a big show. Because
Stone Cold Steve Austin was
Yeah,
drunk in the calf.
Vince McMahon. I mean, we walked into the chair, and we'll tell the story before we get out of here real quick. I don't know if we've ever told it before, but
I don't think we have.
This is around Christmas, about 9 months being there, and we were forced to center post. So we made our way to the Chow Hall on Christmas, and we were the guys that were outside the wire every single day. We were the ones that didn't get a nice meal most of the time. We were the ones that didn't get to appreciate being back on post, because even if we were doing other stupid jobs like working towers or, escorting, whatever the case may be. So we never really got many days off. So when we got to go to the Chow Hall this day, and they were serving steak and shrimp and lobster for Christmas. I mean, mind you, it was the bottom of the barrel when it comes to this stuff, and no less it was with that, and it wasn't an MRE to us. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
And the Chow Hall was so packed that night, and I couldn't figure out why, and I was so pissed off. I was trying to get to my table, trying to get to my
We just wanted
buddies.
to eat.
People were elbow to elbow, couldn't figure out why, and finally I'm sitting there, machete in my way and my elbows, trying to get to the table with my buddies, and I bump into somebody. I'm like, get the F out of my way. And I turned up and looked, and it was a big show. I mean, he is 7 foot, like 3. And,
One of the massive is that's not a word. The biggest humans I've ever seen in my life in person. Like he's a tree.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. Literally a tree.
Massive.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he just kind of looked right down at me, like with that look, like, what are you going to do, you puny bastard? And I gave him a look right back, and I was like, I got a gun on me.
You big, but that thing still eat.
I was just trying to sit down and eat, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I appreciate those guys. I appreciate those wrestlers coming to Iraq on Christmas instead of being there with their families. You know, and that goes for anybody that come over there, for better or worse, for what you think of the war. We're not going to get into that. But, you know, to spend your time over there and spend your Christmas, I still have respect for those guys. And it was good to see them. You know, it kind of reminded you at home for a minute, even though I cussed them because I really did not care about seeing them. I just wanted to eat a good meal and get back to my tent and watch a movie.
You want to know the one that I was pissed about?
Yes.
We met the wrestlers. We met Robin Williams. I met Robin Williams over there.
I didn't do that.
I think that was my second deployment.
Could have been.
Second.
The one I was pissed about was when we got sent on a mission and the Hooters girls came in to serve steak, and we missed it because we were on mission. I was so pissed about that.
I don't
one.
remember that one. Was that when we were over there too?
Yeah,
Probably so.
yeah, we went on mission. Third Platoon went on mission, and we didn't get to get it. We went to the what was it?
Al Assad.
Al Assad.
Yeah.
And they had just left Al Assad and went up to Anaconda. And we had just left Anaconda to go
You
down
know
to
they
Al
sent the
Assad.
best of the best too.
Oh,
You
sorry.
damn right they
Rub it
did. Oh, yeah. I mean,
And we missed it. I was so pissed off.
The Outback, that happened to us on the Outback restaurant too. They sent people over there to cook us steaks. Only it happened just in reverse. You know, when we got to Al Assad, they just left Al Assad and gone to Anaconda, and we went back to Anaconda and they were gone.
Yep.
yeah, we missed out on everything. I mean,
Yeah,
we
pretty
really
much.
were the bastard children of the military. So.
Because we were running all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
with
nonstop
Cactus Jack. I
mission.
don't know where the hell it came from. I'm in the desert uniform. So it must have been that day you're talking about. No clue, but Cactus Jack, Mankind, or whatever. Nick Foley.
Yeah, all of
like
them.
5 people.
Yeah.
Hey, you were correct all
He's
three
the dog,
times.
yeah.
Hell yeah. He once came out in the Royal Rumble with all 3 of them.
You dang right.
Got eliminated 3 times in one match. He still holds the record.
No clue why I had that picture, but I'm in it.
Hey, that's badass. I want one. I'll meet him soon. That's the goal.
So you asked me, to get to experience y'all's emotions when y'all were sitting here talking about it. That brings up a whole set of emotions in me. You know, 20 years ago, I was a freshman in high school. I still shitting green in my diaper.
Where year were you born?
90.
You weren't even in high school yet. You were in middle school.
Middle school. Yeah.
You were just
Yeah.
figuring out what your wiener was made for at that point in time. Like, holy hell, this thing ain't just for peeing, is it?
Hell, when I was
Why does this thing work like it does when a pretty girl runs in front of me? What in the world is going? I mean, that's where you were at that point in time.
I was coming up here.
Sorry, Trinity. I sincerely,
Yeah.
we apologize.
I was coming up here tonight, and the girls at the barn, because I work at Averett College, they were like, "What are you in a rush for?" And I was like, "I got to meet up with my Army buddies." And I was like, "It's been 20 years since we've been deployed. Y'all weren't even fucking born yet."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah, so to sit here and watch y'all's emotions, you know, go through the kind of the highs and the lows, and to hear the stories. You know, I've heard some of them, you know, on the episodes, but to actually be able to sit here and break bread with you guys and drink a few beers and man,
Thank
y'all ever need me, have Billy reach out. I don't have much to offer but a listening ear and a
Hey,
tractor you can ride with me in. And,
just keep doing the podcasts that you're doing, man. I enjoy those. Those are my favorite ones.
well,
All the ones with old chocolate drop on here.
Yeah.
Billy, you call me Chocolate Drop one more time.
I only do it because I love you, man.
Well,
I
I know.
And I got to thank Amber for that.
Yeah.
But you know, But once again, if it wasn't for y'all, I wouldn't know Chris. Everything happens for a reason, and for better or worse. I'm glad to be still sitting here 20 years later. I always, would count down the years as they would go by. I'd be like, man, it's been 4 years. It's been 5 years. Where's it going to be when it's 20? And I'm glad that here at 20, we can get James to drive down from Roanoke. We can get Brickey to drive down from damn Dublin asking for a dip. Hopefully at some point in time we can come down and let him watch a video of him cussing out Herd over a DVD player.
We can get your daddy to come over
We got all
here.
that stuff. No, I'll keep him away. But I'm glad that people can listen to these stories. You know what I mean? I'm glad that people can share in on them and just realize there's people in your life out there that have been through some shit that you can't even comprehend. So give them a break. Give them a break.
As a matter of fact, how long after 9/11 was it when y'all deployed?
We signed up a month before 9/11, went to basic about 4 months later, but we didn't deploy until about a year and a half, close to after 9/11, because 9/11 was allegedly conducted by a bunch of Egyptians and Saudis, and so when we found ourselves in Iraq, we were a little confused.
So I was sitting there thinking about it. I was way off. When 9/11 happened, I was sitting in my 5th grade English class in elementary school.
I was sitting in college, sleeping in a dorm room, and got woke up to some asshole saying, "Y'all going to war?"
Yeah, my wife called me from work, and I'd worked a night shift before, so she called me and woke me up. I'd probably been asleep for 2 hours, and I missed the first plane flying into a tower, but had the
Everybody
TV
did,
on, and I witnessed the second plane flying into the tower. And my wife asked me, "What's it mean?" I said, "Well, we're going to war. I don't know with who yet, but we're going to war." Because it was, obvious to everybody in the country when the second airliner flew into the World Trade Center. It wasn't an accident.
Yeah. The craziest thing I remember was our teacher, and her name was Miss Pendleton. I remember her going out of the room, the principal coming in and getting her going out of the room, and her coming back in and turning with the TV. They had it on the roll cart, and she plugged it up, and I think the second plane had already hit, and we just, I can just remember seeing the building kind of crumbling, and her crying, and somebody approached her and said, "Why are you crying like that?" And she said, "Because I have family in that building." But I mean, 5th grade English class.
Yeah, we were all college age at that point in time.
I just signed up.
Yeah, I mean,
You
we had
signed
all
up.
just
What date
signed
you
up.
signed
We had
up?
all just signed up.
So I just got back from AIT.
I had just re-enlisted. I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps, and I had a break in service, and I re-enlisted a month and a year. I had 2,000 when I came back in.
No
I
offense,
signed
I'm
up
glad
1
you
month
did,
before
though.
9/11.
Really.
If I'd have waited 2 months,
glad
I'd have had a triple signing bonus when I
Oh,
signed
God,
up
yeah.
for. I would have made like 25 grand instead of 8, but
I signed up September 6th.
I did the split up,
of
so I got
2000.
screwed out of that too.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just, just a.
But my ending note is thank y'all, gentlemen. Thank y'all for allowing me to sit here and listen and interact with y'all. I know I said I kind of felt like an outsider looking in,
No.
but I don't really feel like that.
Ain't no outsider in this group.
No.
There are no outsiders in this group right here.
And that's what's crazy.
If you're friends with one
I'm
of us,
just-
you're friends with all of us.
I'm just an old country farm boy, and happen to know one jackass that wanted to do a podcast about farming, and it kind of took off from there. Look at him with that grin. He looks like that donkey on the back 40.
He's nice
Billy,
and
you're that
relaxed now.
jackass. I said, Billy, you're that jackass.
He's just mad that I call him chocolate drip, chocolate drop.
I was gonna say, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, it's, I'm big about family, and Billy, you can share, some of the stuff we talk about, but family is everything to me, and y'all are kind of like my family now.
Oh yeah.
I look forward to being able to do more of these with y'all in the years to come. And,
Oh, we're going to. I mean, we're going to keep documenting these shows as often as we can because
There's still more stories.
yeah, but I mean,
And we
there's so
can-
many stories. I
we
mean,
can kick that British asshole back to where he come from. I'll be your special co-host on these.
Well, he told me that.
What he put on Happy Insurrection Day? Isn't that how he described July 4th? Something like
Yeah,
that.
Yeah. Or something
Well, he
about
told me tonight that I
insurrection.
told him, I said, you're going to fill his shoes admirably. And he said, but not as sexy. I said, well, that's debatable because you got that beautiful, like,
That-
olive skin that he just doesn't have and you're young. And
It's
I
that
mean,
Montgomery Mojo.
it's got to be.
He's got the beard too.
He's stealing some of Simon's thunder tonight, and I appreciate the hell out of that. But we hope Simon and his wife are doing good. And for everybody that showed up here tonight,
Yeah.
love you boys, and thank y'all so much for doing it. We're going to do it again, and we're going to do it again, and we're going to do it. As long as I keep doing this podcast every few months, we're going to do an Iraq episode because, you know, first and foremost, y'all stories need to be shared. And secondly, I just want people to understand that we can come out on the other side of what all else is going on in this world right now. As long as we got people like this sitting at this table out there, we're going to come out on the other side. So for all you boys sitting here, you know, for James Adams coming in tonight and hanging out with us, and old Dick Purdue, you know, for his 10-minute cameo. All he did
Yo,
was
daddy.
show up and eat and leave. That's all he did was show up and eat and leave. I had to bribe
And yet he still pushed your buttons.
I had
He
to
said
bribe
he was
him
gonna-
and blackmail him to show up to pay for his
Well-
meal, and all he did was eat and leave. He couldn't even stick around.
You said he
He's
might
a
put a
busy
few words
man, and I'm sure he got in trouble with Amy for even showing up tonight.
No, I sent her a message yesterday and cleared this up with her. She said, I'm going to let him know about it. So he, good and well, could have stayed and stuck around and said a few words. He didn't want his kids listening to stories that were going to implicate him, and I know good and well, but that's fine. When they turn 18, come find me. I'll show you the video.
Those
Well, they ain't
videos.
got to turn 18. They'll probably listen to the podcast Wednesday morning on the bus ride to
That's
school.
fine, but 18, I'll show them the videos if they want to. Come on by my house.
He's got a beautiful family.
Yeah.
I do. I'm proud of him too, and I'm proud of everybody at this table, and for everybody that tunes in and listens. Thank y'all so very much. If you want to support this show, go to patreon.com/getontap for $3 a month. You know, you get the episodes early. You get, some opportunities to come out some of these live shows and big events we got coming up here in the near future. You get the shows early, and you're supporting us. And I'm taking that money, and I'm supporting it right back into ventures like this. I'm supporting it right back into our local veterans. I'm buying them some beers here today and doing this and this and this. If you want to do a one-time payment, Cash App, Get on Tap, Venmo, Get on Tap, and PayPal is at WB Riddle. If you want to do a one-time payment, every little bit helps. Every little bit really we put back into the pot, and I put back into this show to tell these stories and buy these boys beers here and have a good time. So for everybody out there,
One more thing before I go.
yeah,
I'm going to steal Simon's thunder one more time. We forgot to do it when we started the show.
we didn't culturally appropriate.
Culture
No,
appropriate. Yeah.
No. Que pasa, mi amigos?
I don't speak Spanish, so
What's
you
up,
got,
my friends?
you got me on that one. I know hello in about 12 languages.
What was the question?
Que pasa, mi amigos?
I won't.
How you doing, my friends?
There you go.
We're doing excellent. So thank everybody out there. Brickey, Pooh, Bird, Special Ed, Chris, James, and Dick Purdue.
Thanks for having
And especially Trinity for putting up with our shit
Yes.
all night long.
Absolutely. A hand for
Yeah.
Trinity.
For bringing for hanging out up here, volunteering for this. Hopefully, more shows. I like this spot. I think this is a cool place to come up here and do a show. If we're gonna have shows this big, maybe have a few people sit around and listen and have a good time. And thanks, Brian, Rocky Mountain Burger Company, come down here. The food was great. The drinks were great. Keep on the lookout. If you're listening to this show the very day it is released on Wednesday, that means you need to come out Wednesday night to trivia night at Living Proof Brewery, as Simon and I are going to be hosting. And we're going to be asking questions and showing y'all how smart we are and how smart you're not. So, if you're listening to this that day, come on by, hang out, have a good time. Rick Reeves, what you got coming up?
Hey, I got one little last plug. If you want something to do the next couple weeks, come on down. On the 8th, we got wrestling at the YMCA in Rocky Mount. Henry Law is going to be our special guest with the Law's Choice Moonshine. I think I'm going to get a little drink some, spit in someone's face. And then the next week, we're at the racetrack, Franklin County Speedway, wrestling and racing. Come on.
you want to have that
I'm
belt
telling
there
you, you
with
want a good time, hang out with the boys, come on down. It's I guarantee it. It's family friendly, all that good stuff, y'all.
It's a great, dang right, it's a knack. And we got a championship belt sitting here right now. I think we're going to start.
The champ is here.
We're going to take some pictures with that and get on about our lives. But thank you.
And no,
everybody.
thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for jumping on here and hanging out and listening.
Y'all are awesome.
Thank you,
That was
Brian,
awesome to hear.
everybody else.
My only request is when you come in, you have to ask for me to be your waitress.
Yeah, we can do that every time.
Damn.
I think everybody here is pretty satisfied with that.
Oh God, yeah.
As long as you're here, we got you taken care of. So everybody, tip her good, so she'll want to continue to do something like this and go back and tell Brian it was a worthwhile venture. And as far as everything else is concerned, love y'all boys. See you next time. Take it easy.
God bless. Love y'all.